On the way home, I couldn't stop thinking about what that cadre school official had said. What did he mean by coming to collect evidence? Wasn't everything already investigated when the Huo family was sent down? What were they trying to pull now? When I walked through the door, Mother Huo immediately came over looking worried. I'd left the house clean and neat, but came back covered in dust. Weiwei, what happened to you? She handed me a damp towel while asking. I told her I was fine. I'd just done a good deed today. I explained what happened with the Liu family. She frowned when she heard it. Back when we lived in the compound, I knew the Liu family didn't treat Xia Mingzhu well, but I never imagined it had escalated to actual abuse. Exactly. They put on such a respectable front, but behind closed doors it's a different story. Mother Huo stroked my hair warmly. Our Weiwei is brave. You did a wonderful thing. Go change your clothes, I'll make dinner. I changed into a white dress with lace trim and came out just as she was setting the table. All through the meal, I debated whether to bring up what I'd heard about Huo Shiyuan. But I knew that even if I didn't say anything now, once the cadre school people came, the truth would come out anyway. I set down my chopsticks. Mother Huo set hers down too. She'd clearly already sensed something was on my mind. She spoke first. Weiwei, just say what you need to say.
I can handle it.
After all these years, I've weathered plenty of storms. I pressed my lips together and told her everything I'd heard today. She let out a cold laugh. Once the hunting dog has caught the rabbit, they cook the dog. These people really know how to play both sides. Mom, there's something I've always wondered. You want to know why the Huo family was sent down? I nodded. She looked at me and sighed softly. Yinin's mother was a child your eldest brother brought back from the battlefield. She was raised by your eldest brother and sister-in-law for years, a real lady, educated abroad. When your eldest brother disappeared, your sister-in-law. She paused and gripped my wrist. Weiwei, I should have told you, and Shiyuan sooner. I'm sorry. Mom, whatever it is, we face it together as a family. Just tell me the truth. Her eyes glistened. After your eldest brother disappeared, your sister-in-law didn't hang herself. She also disappeared. Her situation is complicated. We can't explain it clearly. Every time there's an investigation, Shiyuan and your father suffer for it. Weiwei. Her voice was thick with guilt. I said gently, elder brother and sister-in-law loved each other deeply. Perhaps they have their own mission to complete. What matters now is getting through this together. I just feel terrible that you have to suffer too. Just then, there was a knock at the front door. I stood up. Mom, I'll get it. Why don't you go sit with Yinin? Yinin is asleep. I'm staying with you. Seeing the determination on her face, I nodded. Through the thin wooden gate, I could see two cadre school officials, the one who'd told me earlier about coming to collect evidence, and a stranger. I let them in and led them to the kitchen. I assumed they were here to ask about Yinin's parents. I offered them water out of politeness, but they declined and said they'd be quick. They sat down on small stools. One studied Mother Huo and me while the other opened a notebook. Comrade Lin, we understand you were once adopted by a capitalist family. I was taken aback. This wasn't about Yinin's parents, it was about me. It wasn't an adoption, I said calmly. The two families' babies were switched at birth. I've since found my biological parents. They exchanged a surprised look. One of them cleared his throat. The thing is, your background has put Comrade Huo Shiyuan in a very difficult position. Your status is dragging him down and making it hard for him to continue his work. What work does he need to continue? I asked. This made no sense. It felt like they'd come with a script and hadn't bothered to rehearse it properly. If they cared about my family background, shouldn't they have asked about my biological parents' status the moment I mentioned finding them? If my birth parents turned out to be poor peasants, the best possible classification, then I wouldn't be a burden to Shiyuan at all. The official tried again. Comrade Lin, we're sincerely trying to help Comrade Huo. He's an outstanding soldier who achieved excellent results in multiple battles and exercises. Even here at the cadre school, we don't want to see his talent wasted. Then this is perfect timing, I said. My biological parents are villagers from Darong village. What? Both officials looked stunned. The note-taker flipped frantically through his notebook, as if searching for something to counter what I'd just said. The lead official raised his voice. Comrade Lin, I think you understand that Comrade Huo Shiyuan hasn't been having an easy time. If you truly want to help him, you can't just make things up. Motherhood couldn't take it anymore. My daughter-in-law is a wonderful person. She's perfectly willing to cooperate with your work. I asked directly. Comrades, I obviously want my husband to be treated fairly. So tell me plainly, what exactly are you asking me to do? Please don't get excited. I'm not excited, I said, almost laughing at the absurdity. The official finally came out with it. Comrade Lin, your situation isn't unique. When we want to save a good comrade, the usual approach is divorce. Once the two parties sever their relationship, they no longer affect each other. Divorce? Mother was shot to her feet. Before we came here, you people refused to let my daughter-in-law go free. Now you're telling them to divorce? Is this your idea or Shiyuan's? Ma'am, please calm down and hear us out. Mother Huo waved her hand dismissively, refusing to listen to another word of their nonsense. I almost laughed. The only reason divorce would make sense is if my background were actually a problem. But as I just told you, my biological parents are village peasants. My classification couldn't possibly be better. So perhaps you should go back to your office and have another meeting about this first. The cadre school official's face turned stern. Comrade Lin, are you saying our committee's discussion was wrong? I stood up, my expression just as hard. Your entire discussion was based on the assumption that I'm a capitalist's daughter. But I'm not anymore. Does your leadership even know that? Do they know my biological parents are villagers from Rome County, 3 generations of poor peasants? If they don't know this, then your whole approach is wrong. As leaders, I'd think you'd want to listen to the facts. The official waved that off like it didn't matter. Comrade Lin, it's simpler than you think. As long as Comrade Huo Shiyuan is unattached, his background review problems disappear. I scoffed and pointed at the door. Then it seems we have nothing more to discuss tonight. Don't be selfish, Comrade Lin. Think about your husband. That was the last straw for Mother Huo. She grabbed the broom beside her and shouted, "Who are you calling selfish? You come here telling people to divorce just to make your paperwork easier. Aren't you afraid of the consequences?" I picked up the fire poker and pressed it against the official's chest. "You can leave now. Go tell your so-called leader that divorce is not happening. You're being unreasonable. Comrade Huo will resent you for your selfishness. What are you doing? What am I doing? You barged into a home with only women and children at night. We told you to leave. Do you not understand simple words?" His eyes went wide. "Shrew. How can you behave like this?" He backed toward the door, sputtering, while I kept the poker aimed at him. The quiet one with the notebook tried a gentler approach. "Comrade Lin, you and your husband clearly have deep feelings for each other. Wouldn't it be better to help each other by splitting up? That's your definition of helping each other? Do you even hear how ridiculous you sound?" The first one tried one last angle. "Have you considered that Comrade Huo might actually want the divorce?" Nonsense. If he'd agreed, you wouldn't be here persuading me. You'd be here notifying me. My husband is a man of integrity and responsibility. He's worth 100 of you cowards who'd abandon your wives and children to save yourselves. Who are you calling cowards? Both men were red-faced. I pointed the poker at them. "You. Now get out of my house immediately. If you don't leave this instant, I'm going to the Women's Federation tomorrow to report that 2 men broke into a home of women and children at night with improper intentions. They tugged at their jackets and practically ran out the gate. I slammed it shut and bolted the lock. When I turned around, Mother Huo was standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. I rushed to hold her. "Mom, don't worry. I'll figure something out tomorrow. I won't let anything happen to Shiyuan." She gripped my hands. "Weiwei, Shiyuan chose well. Don't ever listen to those people. He would never divorce you just to make his own life easier. Mom, I believe in him." After settling her down and getting her to bed, I went to my room. I entered my space to do my monthly lottery draw, just going through the motions, too distracted to care what I got. A small booklet dropped out. The cover read, "Supporting Characters Collection." I picked it up, confused. Flipping through, I found entries for Lin Jiaojiao, Lin Yuhao, and deeper in, Lu Huanhuan and other names I hadn't encountered yet. It was a dossier of every antagonist around me, backgrounds, motivations, everything laid out clearly. Then I found Huo Shiyuan's page. Under Person of Interest, my name was written. I felt a chill. So, Zhou Xie had been making things difficult for Shiyuan to force us to divorce? This whole scheme, the evidence collection, the divorce suggestion, it all traced back to him? I clutched the booklet and left the space. I slept for only 2 or 3 hours. The moment it was light, I jumped on a bicycle and rode to Darong village, to my biological family, the Qians. I arrived in under 30 minutes. Father Qian was just coming outside to feed the chickens. Girl, what are you doing here so early? Did something happen? Dad, I need your help. The word Dad made his eyes well up instantly. He set down the chicken feed and fumbled with the gate lock. Don't be afraid. Whatever it is, your mom and dad have your back. I went inside and told the whole family what happened last night. My brother Qian Taijun slammed the table. Those shameless people. My little sister and her husband have been through so much, and they have the nerve to push for divorce. My sister-in-law Fong Hui rolled her eyes. My own brother-in-law's marriage is a disaster, and I've never once suggested they split up. Who do these officials think they are? Mother Qian coughed twice, then turned to Father Qian with steely determination. Go borrow the neighbor's cart. Push me over there. I want to see for myself who's telling our daughter to get divorced. And while I'm at it, I'd like to know how a girl from a 3-generation poor peasant family supposedly has a bad class background. I'll go get the cart right now. Father Qian was back in minutes. The whole Qian family set off with me toward the cadre school. Along the way, neighbors heading to the field saw our group marching with purpose and asked what was going on. My parents didn't hide a thing, and soon everyone was cursing along with us. As we approached, I spotted Lin Jiaojiao and Lin Yuhao in the distance. My brother spat on the ground. It's all because of some plague of a leader at the cadre school, scheming behind the scenes to force my sister and her husband apart. His name is Zhou something. Zhou Xie. On the road to the cadre school, my brother Taijun played his part perfectly. When we spotted Lin Jiaojiao and Lin Yuhao up ahead, he made sure to mention Zhou Xie's name loud enough for them to hear. Lin Yuhao got excited. Jiaojiao, did they say Zhou Xie? Lin Jiaojiao yanked her sleeve away from him and snapped, Shut up. Then she hurried off and disappeared around the corner. Taijun turned to me with a grin. Little sis, how was my performance? Perfect. I told him before we left. If we ran into Lin Jiaojiao, make sure she learned that Zhou Xie was here. If she went chasing after him, it would keep him busy and distracted. My brother put the pieces together. So this cadre school leader, he already knew you before? I told the truth. Before being sent down, Lin Jiaojiao was trying to latch onto Zhou Xie and become his girlfriend. My sister-in-law Fong Hui jumped in with a gossipy look. So, he didn't want her, he wanted you instead. I shook my head seriously. I've only met Zhou Xie 2 or 3 times. The first time was when Lin Yuhao and Lin Jiaojiao were trying to bully me, and he happened to see it and stepped in. Lin Jiaojiao did that? Taijun was shocked. My parents looked pained hearing this. But Fong Hui gave a thumbs up with dark humor. Lin Jiaojiao's luck is terrible. She hadn't even hooked the man yet, and he'd already seen her true colors. My brother worried that if Lin Jiaojiao got close to Zhou Xie again, it might cause more trouble for Shiyuan. But Fong Hui twisted his ear. Use your brain. If Zhou Xie were interested in her, she wouldn't need to hear about him from us. She'd already know he was here. Taijun muttered something about how easy it was for women to chase men, and Fong Hui twisted harder. Their bickering made me laugh despite everything. Whether they get together isn't our business, I said quietly. As long as they don't interfere with us. We arrived at the cadre school quickly. The gatekeeper looked us over without much warmth. What do you want? I'm here to see Comrade Zhou Xie. What for? Our director Zhou is very popular. Girls come looking for him all the time. I ignored his attitude, stood on tiptoe to peer over the iron gate, and just started shouting. Comrade Zhou Xie! Comrade Zhou Xie! Hey, what are you doing? Be quiet. The gatekeeper couldn't stop me through the gate. Moments later, Zhou Xie appeared. When he saw me, something flickered in his eyes. Surprise. Maybe even delight. He walked over quickly. Wei, Comrade Lin Weiwei. What brings you here? He noticed my family behind me. I smiled politely. Comrade Zhou, could we come inside to talk? He ordered the gate opened. The gatekeeper grumbled that we looked like trouble. I joked back. What am I going to do, blow up the cadre school? Once inside, I didn't waste a second. I raised my voice so everyone nearby could hear. Comrade Zhou, your colleagues came to my home last night and presented some information that doesn't match reality. Today I've brought my biological parents and my brother and sister-in-law. I want to clarify, in front of all the cadre school comrades, the question of my background as it relates to my husband, Comrade Huo Shiyuan. Zhou Xie's expression tightened. He clearly hadn't expected me to come in swinging. I continued, calm and smiling. Before the Huo family was sent down, the organization had already investigated everything thoroughly. My being Xiyuan's wife was never the reason for the transfer. Now I'm told he can't be assigned proper work here because his wife is supposedly a capitalist's daughter. This is an enormous misunderstanding. My parents are from Darong village. 3 generations of poor peasants. Our background is spotless. Comrade Lin, we will investigate this matter, Zhou Xie said, as the crowd around us grew larger. But I hadn't come all this way to be brushed off. I kept my friendly smile firmly in place. What's left to investigate? Whether my parents and I are actually related by blood. If your leadership isn't convinced, we can go get blood tests right now. From the crowd, a bold voice spoke up. Surely you don't need a whole family to get blood drawn just to prove they're related? That's absurd. Another chimed in. She's not going to just randomly claim strangers as her parents to save her husband. Give the woman a break, leader. Why isn't the leader saying anything? Does he not trust us? Or does he not trust the people? The cadre school workers were no pushovers. They'd all been top performers in their previous posts and weren't afraid to speak up. Huo Shiyuan, a political officer, didn't have their kind of blunt courage. He stood there with his brow deeply furrowed, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read, something like pain. But I kept my composure. Polite smile, steady voice, absolutely unyielding. After a moment, he said carefully, Comrade Lin, you've come a long way. Why don't you and your family come to my office, and we can discuss this properly? I held his gaze. Comrade Zhou, my parents are worried about their son-in-law. Now that my background has been clarified, could I please see Huo Shiyuan? I cut Zhou Xie off mid-sentence. Comrade Zhou, whatever questions you have, I can answer them right now. Once you're satisfied, please let me and my parents see Huo Shiyuan. He frowned. Comrade Lin, do you think I've been deliberately making things hard for him? Comrade Zhou, once suspicion takes root, it's hard to undo. You helped me before, and I won't assume the worst about you. But I will fight for my husband without hesitation. Something shifted in his eyes. After a pause, he said quietly, Congratulations on finding your biological parents. Thank you. He let out a small sigh, then pointed toward the buildings in the back. Comrade Hua is in the confinement room. It's a restricted area. I can only take you alone. My heart leapt. I quickly told the Qian family to wait, then followed Zhou Xie to the back courtyard. Neither of us spoke on the way. He stopped in front of a red brick building and pushed the door open. Before I stepped in, he said in a low voice, what happened to him was just standard procedure. I hope you won't take it personally. My stomach tightened. I looked him straight in the eye. I hope that's true. I walked in and shut the door behind me. The room was cramped and smelled of mold. Bare brick walls with cracks running through them. An iron door, a barred window, and a wooden plank bed with a straw mat. That was it. Xiyuan's hands were tied above him to the wooden headboard. The rope marks on his wrists were raw and red. My feet felt like lead. I walked to the bed and held my trembling fingers under his nose. His breathing was steady. I let out a shaky breath of relief. I sat beside him. Xiyuan, his eyes snapped open. He tried to sit up instinctively, but the ropes yanked him back down. I steadied him, then pulled a pair of scissors from my space and cut through the bindings. Weiwei, how did you get in here? His eyes were full of worry for me, not himself. Seeing what they'd done to him, I couldn't hold back. Tears spilled down my face. He laughed softly, that gentle way he always did. Weiwei, don't cry. I'm fine. Are you hurt anywhere? I didn't wait for an answer. I circled him, checking every inch, terrified that they might have beaten him where the bruises wouldn't show. I was practically ready to pull his shirt up to his neck to check his torso. When I confirmed he was unharmed, I finally relaxed. But when I sat back down facing him, His face and neck had turned completely red. Weiwei, he said helplessly, that was a little intense. I wasn't prepared. I blinked, then realized how it must have looked. What are you thinking? I was checking for injuries, he smiled warmly. I'm okay, really. Don't worry. This isn't a place for you. Go home and wait for me. I shook my head.
No.
I'm taking you home with me. I walked back outside to Huo Shiyuan. You've been crying? He asked before I could speak. Seeing my husband suffer. Of course I'm upset. Comrade Zhou, my background has been fully explained. Is the cadre school leadership really going to keep my husband locked up? Comrade Lin, I completely understand your feelings. Comrade Zhou, I don't need you to understand my feelings. I just need you to do your job fairly. Are you blaming me? I'm heartbroken for my husband. That's all. He stared at me for a long moment, until his throat seemed to go dry. Then he said, since the background issue is no longer an issue, Comrade Huo naturally doesn't need to remain in confinement. Thank you. I'm bringing him home right now. I went back inside and helped Shiyuan to his feet. When he saw the determination on my face, something changed in his expression. Like he decided his life belonged to me from this moment on. He squeezed my hand. My wife is incredible. I froze for a second, then felt a sudden wave of shyness I hadn't expected. Let's just go home. We walked out together. Shiyuan and Huo Shiyuan locked eyes as we passed, but neither said a word. When we reached the front courtyard, the cadre school workers saw Shiyuan walking free and burst into cheers and whistles. One man dramatically collapsed against his friend. I regret not finding a wife sooner. Look at that. I'm so pathetic. Please, as if anyone would have you. Say that again, and I'll end you. Knock it off, all of you. Not everyone's this lucky. Don't rub salt in wounds. The laughter faded. I led Shiyuan out through the gate to where the Qian family was waiting. We said our goodbyes to them and headed home. When we arrived, Father Hua and Sanzi, Shiyuan's younger brother, were already back. Father saw me and immediately gave a thumbs up. Weiwei, I'm proud of you. Today you were like a real soldier. You rescued your people. Sanzi was bouncing with excitement. Big sis, you were amazing. Those guys were dying of jealousy. You should have seen Huo Shiyuan's face when you and brother walked out side by side. He looked worse than if someone had died. Tell me everything. That's enough. Shiyuan cut in. Weiwei's had a long day. She needs rest. Sanzi pouted. You'd better actually let her rest. Go to bed. Shiyuan said firmly, shooing him away. He checked in with his parents, then walked me back to our room. Inside, the oil lamp flickered on the Kong, casting soft shadows. He pulled me close, our breathing mingling. He breathed in the scent of my hair and murmured, Weiwei. His nose brushed against my cheek. It tickled, and I pulled back slightly. But his hand gently cradled the back of my head, and he whispered, Weiwei, don't pull away. I let out a long breath, nervously clutching the edge of the blanket. Shiyuan's warm lips brushed against my ear, his hot breath on my neck. Weiwei. He kept murmuring my name, his voice husky. My heart felt like a feather was teasing it, back and forth. I shifted and accidentally bumped into him. He let out a stifled groan. I immediately froze and took a deep breath. Shiyuan, it's fine. He pulled the blanket between us as a barrier. His breathing was still heavy, his voice rough, but his self-control held. He gently pressed my shoulder, then let his hand rest on my still flat belly. Have you been feeling unwell lately? No. After the autumn harvest, in about 2 weeks, let's go to the county hospital for a checkup. Okay. He went quiet after that. If it weren't for the heat radiating off his body and his unsteady breathing, I'd have thought he'd fallen asleep. I knew he was holding himself back. I didn't dare move and make it worse. Just as I was about to drift off, he asked, Did you do your space lottery today? Almost forgot. I slipped into my space. While I was gone, he apparently went outside and took a cold water bath. When I came back and saw him standing there dripping wet, I looked away awkwardly. Shiyuan. Before I could say anything, he leaned down, kissed my lips softly, and whispered, Don't ask. He blew out the oil lamp. We lay down together again. The cold bath and the lottery should have calmed things down. But the temperature in the room kept climbing. His deep, deliberate breathing was impossible to ignore. I wasn't exactly comfortable either. I bit my lip. Shiyuan, guess what I won in the lottery today? What? There was a hint of a smile in his voice. A piece of clothing. My face burned as I said it. Even in the dark, just thinking about that garment was embarrassing. What kind of clothing? I took his hand and placed the item in his palm. He chuckled, thinking I was being playful. His fingers closed around it. What is this? It feels very small, very cool and silky. A handkerchief. It's clothing. I forced myself to sound calm. The moment he understood, I felt his whole body tense. His heartbeat pounded so hard I could almost hear it. Every ounce of restraint he'd been clinging to was screaming to let go. He gripped the garment tight. Then I reached over, took hold of the fabric's edge, and slowly drew it out of his fist. With the silk draped over my hand, I reached for him. Weiwei, he sucked in a sharp breath. All his control shattered. He pulled me onto his lap in one motion. Weiwei, what am I going to do with you? He kissed my earlobe tenderly. My own heart was racing so fast I couldn't find my voice. I must have lost my mind. We breathed together softly in the dark. The next morning, I woke but didn't open my eyes right away. I reached over to his side. The blanket was neatly folded. He'd already gotten up. I exhaled with relief. Then I sat up and my face went scarlet. That little garment from last night was folded neatly on his pillow. I snatched it up and shoved it into the cabinet. Behind me came a low, amused laugh. I spun around. Shiyuan was standing in the doorway, eyes full of warmth. I busied myself folding blankets, straightening pillows, putting on shoes, anything to avoid eye contact. When I tried to walk past him, he caught my arm. He pushed the door gently shut. Weiwei, we're husband and wife. So, this is completely normal. I couldn't think of what to say. I just nodded. He smiled softly. Breakfast is ready. Wash up and come eat. Mom says she has something to discuss with you. We ate breakfast in his parents' room as usual. Father Huo, Mother Huo, Sanzi, and little Yinyin were all there. Yinyin was wearing a pretty red dress, sitting on the kong while Mother Huo braided her hair. Weiwei, I want to ask your opinion about something. Mother Huo patted the edge of the kong for me to sit. As your body gets heavier with a pregnancy, managing the school, teaching students, and keeping them safe will be too much on your own. What if I came with you every day? I could help with odds and ends, and Yinyin could come along too and start learning things instead of staying home alone. Of course, but it might be tiring for you. The school is still pretty rough. That doesn't scare me. Staying home waiting for all of you to come back isn't good for me either. I want to keep moving forward with you. Father Huo chimed in happily. See? I told you Weiwei would agree. Now you can lead the students in singing and dancing, just like you used to do in the performing arts troupe. Mother Huo's eyes lit up. Yinyin spun in circles on the kong. Yinyin gets to play with other kids, Sanzi grinned. This is great. Mother Huo and Big Sis will have each other at the school, and brother Uncle Huo and I will have each other in the fields. Mother Huo teased him. Once things settle down, we should find you a wife too. Then our family will be complete. Sanzi scratched his head, touched that she considered him family, but kept up his tough act. I'm perfectly happy without a wife. Couldn't be more free. Shiyuan clapped him on the shoulder. I'm remembering that. I'll bring it up to embarrass you when the time comes. Sanzi was still teasing Shiyuan about his taste in wives when I grabbed a bun, pretended not to hear, and headed out with Mother Huo and Yinyin for the school. This was Mother Huo's first time leaving the house since we'd moved in. She wore a simple blue pants and white blouse, but her fair skin and elegant bearing made villagers do double takes as she passed. She tugged at her clothes self-consciously. Weiwei, you look wonderful, Mom. Very appropriate. Yinyin pulled at her hand. They're staring because Grandma is beautiful. Grandma is a great beauty. Mother Huo blushed and pinched Yinyin's nose. You little flatterer. Yinyin ran ahead in her red dress, looking like a little doll. The village women couldn't resist her. They crowded around, admiring her outfit and asking whose child she was. Yinyin wasn't shy at all. She complimented every single one of them. Auntie, your headscarf is so pretty. Auntie, you have dimples. Auntie, you smell so nice. They were absolutely charmed. One woman offered her popcorn, but Yinyin politely declined. That's your work snack, Auntie. Inin doesn't do hard work, so Inin should need it. One woman joked, if kidnapping wasn't a death sentence, I'd go home for a sack right now. Mother Hua and I stood watching from nearby, laughing. Mother Hua murmured, this girl doesn't take after her father. He's like a block of wood. And she's not like her mother either, who was always so composed. Who does she take after? Maybe her aunt, I said, and the image of Hua Mingxiu's bright face floated into my mind. Mother Hua went quiet for a moment, then walked over and gently pulled Inin away, scolding her for keeping the women from their work. The ladies gushed over how young Mother Hua looked. They couldn't believe Inin was her granddaughter, not her daughter. After they finally parted ways, I took Inin's hand. From now on, hold Grandma's hand tight when we're outside. No running off, okay? Inin understands, she answered with her little face tilted up, completely serious. My heart melted. I bent to pick her up, but Mother Hua stopped me. Your body isn't stable yet. Don't carry her. Inin wiggled her legs. Look, second Annie, Inin can walk all by herself. We arrived at the Women's Federation building laughing and chatting. But before we even made it through the gate, I heard shouting from inside. I instinctively moved Mother Hua and Inin behind me and walked in first. Anyone can be a teacher. I went to elementary school in Rome County. If Lin Weiwei can teach, so can I. That was Lin Jiaojiao's voice. Several other young women were backing her up. If anyone who can read gets to run a school, why not us? The Women's Federation belongs to the whole village, not just Lin Weiwei. Xia Mingzhu was standing there with a broom, fuming. You're not qualified. None of you are, Lin Jiaojia screamed at her. Who says we're not qualified? I stepped forward, put Mingzhu behind me, and faced Lin Jiaojiao. Are you deaf? She said you're not qualified. Lin Jiaojiao put her hands on her hips. Lin Weiwei, you finally show up. Tell me, what makes you so special that you get to be a teacher? I'd already figured out her angle. She'd heard that Huo Shiyuan was at the cadre school and came sniffing around, then discovered I had a teaching position with a salary. She wanted a respectable job to impress Huo Shiyuan. Mingzhu jumped in before I could respond. She's more qualified than all of you combined. The school is running well because of her. Now you want to swoop in and take the credit? Shameless. I touched her arm. Don't get angry. I've got this. She shoved the broom into my hands. Don't waste words on them. Hit them over the head with this. I weighed the broom, thanked her, and turned to face Lin Jiaojiao and the 5 girls behind her. They backed up nervously. What are you going to do? Hit us? I shook my head. Why would I hit you? You want to join the village education effort? I think that's a great idea. Director Li looked at me in surprise. Yue, I gave her a reassuring look, then turned back to the girls. You've all seen the situation. This school runs on the village's communal resources. Mingzhu's salary comes out of my own pay. If you want to share, you need to earn it. Fair enough. What do you want us to do? Lin Jiaojiao narrowed her eyes. What's your trick, Lin Weiwei? Nothing difficult. But a small village school with 30 students doesn't need 6 extra teachers. So, here's my suggestion. Fight it out among yourselves. Whoever wins, I'll hire. What? That's ridiculous. What kind of selection process is that? I shrugged. Well, if you can't decide among yourselves, how am I supposed to choose? I can't keep all 6 of you. 5 yuan split 6 ways. How many cents is that each? That's nothing. Then let's go by test scores. No, let's go by age. Oldest first. Ma Tsuehua, you're 28. Of course you want to go by age, you sneaky thing. Say that again. Within seconds, they were all screaming at each other. I stood back and watched with Mingzhu and Director Li. Lin Jiaojiao was gritting her teeth, watching her so-called allies tear each other apart. One sentence from me, and they turned on each other like dogs fighting over a bone. I could practically read her thoughts. Idiots. Absolute idiots. When I noticed Lin Jiaojiao's hateful glare, I raised my hand to stop the bickering girls. Enough, enough. I think we should just go with Lin Jiaojiao. A teacher shouldn't be this loud and quarrelsome. She's the only one among you who kept her composure. Mother Hua was alarmed. Weiwei. But before she could say more, the other girls turned on Lin Jiaojiao instantly, just as I'd expected. One of them slapped Jiaojiao's pointing finger down. What makes you qualified? You're not even from our village. You think you can be our teacher? Dream on. We're all more qualified than her. She's a sent-down person. What right does she have? Lin Jiaojiao knew I'd done this on purpose. One word from me, and these girls would attack her. But hearing it still stung. She'd only recruited them because she felt outnumbered coming alone. Now she was regretting bringing along what she privately called these idiots. She forced herself to calm down and smooth things over. Let's not fight. I'll compete fairly with all of you. How about we compare our grades, age, and ability? Whoever wins gets the job. She then flattered each girl individually, trying to get them to agree to a formal competition, confident that none of these village girls could beat someone who'd lived 2 lifetimes. They agreed. Lin Jiaojiao turned to me with a challenging look. I said, actually, let's keep it simple. Elementary school curriculum isn't hard to teach. What matters more is dedication to the school and the children. Right now, these 37 students don't even have textbooks. Whoever can get 37 complete sets of textbooks for the students, that person gets the teaching position. The girls erupted. That's impossible. Where would I get money for books? My mom sent me here to earn money, not spend it. Lin Jiaojiao, though, was thinking differently. She looked at Director Li and raised the stakes. Lin Weiwei should have to compete too. If I can solve the textbook problem, I should replace her entirely. Director Li started to object, but I tugged her sleeve. Agree to it, I whispered. She gave me a look but went along. I turned to Lin Jiaojiao.
Deal.
3 days. Whoever brings 37 complete sets of books becomes the teacher. Fine. Lin Jiaojiao grabbed some notebooks and pencils from the classroom. Even if I have to copy them by hand, I'll finish. But you don't know anyone around here. Where are you going to find 37 sets? I only need 1 set to start with, I said calmly. She gritted her teeth. Then get ready to lose. After the girls scattered, some going home to borrow books, others still plotting, Director Li, Mingzhu, and Mother were all turned to me with worried faces. 37 sets? Do you know how many books that is? Director Li shook her head. Every subject, language, math, political studies, general knowledge, revolutionary arts, physical education, labor, across multiple grades. That was over 1,000 books. Mingzhu offered to go door to door, asking for donations. But Yinin tugged my sleeve with perfect confidence. My second auntie always has a plan. Those girls can't outsmart her. I patted her head, then stopped Mingzhu. Don't go knocking on doors. You stay here and teach the kids. I have an idea. Director Li managed to find a book or 2 at her home. The other Women's Federation workers went to check their houses too. Every little bit helped. I left the school, but instead of going door to door, I got on my bicycle and rode straight to Rome County Elementary, the only proper school within miles. It wasn't a large school, maybe 40 or 50 students per grade, 1 class each. That told you everything about how few families could afford education or cared about it in these times. At the gate, the moment I mentioned I was from the Darong Village Women's Federation School, the guard's face lit up.
Oh.
We've heard about your village setting up a school. Our principal knows all about it. Are you here for a visit? Yes, I'd love to meet your principal if possible. Of course. Director Li from your village has a good relationship with our principal. He'll be happy to see you. I smiled. If that connection was in place, then what I was about to ask for was going to go smoothly. Rome County Elementary was a row of brick buildings, classrooms on the left, teachers' offices on the right. The guard uncle led me straight to the principal's office. Principal Meng was sitting at his desk in a neat mouse suit, sipping tea and reading. He had a calm, scholarly air about him. When he looked up and saw me, his eyes warmed. You're from Darong Village, he glanced behind me. Just you? Yes, Principal Meng. Sorry to bother you. Something flickered in his expression, and the guard uncle beside me was trying not to smile. I got the feeling there was something about the Darong Village Women's Federation that amused them, but I couldn't figure out what. Principal Meng was welcoming. I heard your village is setting up a school again. I'm very supportive. What can we do to help? I explained that our school was very basic, merged with the Women's Federation in one small courtyard. I wanted to sit in on some classes and, most importantly, look at complete textbooks for all subjects across grades 1 through 5. He nodded with understanding. Textbooks are a luxury when people can barely afford to eat. Starting anything is hard, I said. But someone has to push through. He looked at me with approval. Well said. I hope you can. Then he sent Uncle Chun to collect spare textbooks from the teachers, every subject, every grade, upper and lower semesters. While we waited, he poured me tea. He asked casually whether the Women's Federation staff were happy about the school. There was something behind the question I couldn't quite read, but he waved it off as small talk. Then he offered something extraordinary. I'll personally donate 10 complete sets of textbooks to support your school. 10 sets, that was easily 1 or 200 yuan. A fortune for anyone. I thanked him sincerely, but declined for now, saying I was still working on a solution and would ask if I truly needed it. I wasn't being stubborn. I actually had a plan. Uncle Chun returned with a stack of books, the lower grades first, then came back with the upper grades. I arranged them all neatly on the desk by grade and semester. Uncle Chun noticed how organized I was and commented on it, then left to watch the school gate since lunch dismissal was approaching. The moment I was alone, I looked at those 10 beautiful sets of textbooks lined up before me and smiled. I pulled everything, books and myself, into my space. Staring at the books spread across the floor, the little TV screen in my space started to pipe up, but I cut it off. Bring out the treasure pot. The magical pot appeared instantly. I grabbed the first grade books and tossed them in. A second later, the pot produced copies, 50 brand new books of each type, identical to the originals. It worked. I went through every grade, every subject, dumping books into the pot as fast as I could. Within minutes, the space was covered in towering stacks of textbooks. Second grade, third, fourth, fifth, all done. The little TV screen flashed proudly. Master, this is the most educated I've ever been. The books went through your belly. That doesn't make you educated. It pouted on screen, clearly not accepting that logic. Then the TV said something useful. Master, you have books now. Don't you need notebooks and pencils too? I clapped my hands. You're brilliant. That computer brain of yours really does work. I popped back out of the space, found some notebooks and pencils in Principal Meng's office, brought them into the space, and ran them through the treasure pot. 50 copies of each. Enough supplies for our students to last a very long time. I didn't know if the pot had limits on quantity or what kinds of items it could copy, but so far it had worked perfectly for everything I'd tried. With my mission accomplished, I left the space, carefully returned every original book, notebook, and pencil to exactly where I'd found them, and sat down to read a math textbook. When Principal Meng came back from his class and saw what I was reading, he asked, "You prefer math, Comrade Lin?" I stood up. We have another teacher at our school who's much better at language arts, very well educated. I think a subject like Chinese, which requires broad knowledge, would be better taught by her. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. You know how to put the right people in the right roles. Now I understand why Director Li trusts you so much. I made casual conversation with Principal Meng. You've known our Director Li for a long time, haven't you? The moment I said it, his expression tensed up. He took a sip of water and quickly changed the subject, offering to let me sit in on a third-grade math class. I agreed. The lesson was genuinely helpful. Afterward, he invited me to stay for lunch, but I declined. He'd already been incredibly generous with his time and resources. I told him next time I was in the county, I'd treat him to a meal at the state restaurant. Uncle Chun, the guard, added with a knowing smile, "You should invite Director Li too." Principal Meng immediately cut him off. Old Chun, stop talking nonsense. Oh, Director Li, Uncle Chun suddenly exclaimed, looking behind us. Principal Meng stiffened. Don't say things like that in front of our young colleague. If Director Li heard you, she'd skin you alive. And right on cue, Director Li's cold voice came from behind. I'm not a fascist, a landlord, or a she-devil. Why would I want to skin anyone? I spun around, delighted, and grabbed her arm. What are you doing here? She gave me a look. I should be asking you that. I searched the whole village and couldn't find you. I thought you'd given up on the textbook challenge and were hiding somewhere crying. You were worried about me. I leaned against her with a grin. She pinched my arm. I'll deal with you later. Then she looked up at the two men. They both immediately lowered their heads like scolded quails. There was definitely something going on between these three. I blinked and waited for the drama to unfold, but Director Lee said nothing more about it. She asked if I'd managed to borrow books. Did you come all the way here to help me borrow books? I was genuinely touched. Principal Meng jumped in. She didn't mention borrowing books. Is the school having trouble? I can donate. Did I ask you for money? Director Lee cut him off. He shook his head quickly. Students were starting to come out for lunch, staring at us curiously. One whispered, "Is that the principal's boss?" Another, "Is the principal getting scolded?" A third, "Don't cry, principal." Principal Meng and Director Lee exchanged a glance and looked away fast. Uncle Chun tried to defend himself. "We treated your teacher very well. Did I ask you?" Director Lee glared. He shut his mouth like he wanted to sew it closed. I leaned close to Director Lee's ear. "Are those two and you? Is your business handled or not?" I nodded quickly. She said, "Then let's go." Principal Meng chased after us 2 steps. "Shuang Shuang, you're leaving already." One look from her stopped him cold. She got on the bicycle and told me to hurry up. I barely had time to wave goodbye to the principal before she pedaled away. As the school gate shrank behind us, I couldn't help asking, "Director Lee, is Principal Meng your class enemy?" "That's serious?" I couldn't help laughing. "What's so funny?" She coughed awkwardly. "Director Lee, I think Principal Meng likes you. He likes plenty of people. I don't even rank." That sounded like there was a real misunderstanding between them. I tried to ask more, but she shut me down. "Close your mouth. You disappeared without a word, and I haven't even asked where you went. And now you're interrogating me." Her words were stern, but I could hear the worry underneath. My heart warmed. She called Principal Meng her enemy and clearly had issues with him, yet she'd gone to his school to help me borrow books anyway. I secretly pulled a white rabbit candy from my space, unwrapped it, and popped it into her mouth before she could dodge. "What are you?" "Thank you, Director Lee." She was quiet for a moment, then said with forced seriousness, "Don't think a piece of candy will stop me from asking questions. Then ask away." All morning, those girls have been running around like crazy, borrowing books, copying books by hand, even dragging out relatives who went to school for 2 days to help trace textbook pages. "So tell me, what's your plan?" "The books are ready." She hit the brakes so hard the bicycle skidded to a stop. "Are you serious?" She turned to stare at me, stunned, half thrilled that I'd solved the problem, half amazed that the children would actually have real textbooks. "In 3 days, I'll have every single book ready." She squinted suspiciously. "Does this have something to do with that Meng fellow? He's paying for all of them. Don't ask too many questions." "I can promise the problem will be completely solved. It's not all from Principal Meng, but because of him, I found my solution." "You're sure?" "Positive." She started pedaling again. "If you wait the full 3 days to reveal the books, those girls will waste 3 days copying and causing chaos." I knew Director Lee was softer-hearted than me, but I held firm. "They deserve it. Strike hard once, and you prevent 100 future attacks. This lesson teaches them not to mess with me. You little thing, using military strategy in a squabble between teenage girls." I grinned. "I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants and catching the wind. It's all thanks to good people like you." Smooth talker. A small smile tugged at her lips. After a quiet moment, she asked, "How old are you?" 18. 18. She went silent, and something heavy passed across her face. I wondered if she was thinking about a daughter of her own, one who might have been my age. Then her expression hardened. "Don't go see that Meng fellow again. He's not a good person. Do you hear me?" When Director Lee told me not to visit Principal Meng again, I went quiet for a moment. "Did you hear me?" she pressed. "Director Lee, what exactly happened between you two?" I'm not claiming to be a great judge of character, but Principal Meng didn't seem like a bad person to me. His feelings for Director Lee were obvious, even to an outsider like me. She didn't answer for a long time. I leaned forward to peek at her face. Finally, she said, "Don't dig into it. That advice comes from my own blood and tears." I dropped it. If there were real scars involved, it wasn't something that could be explained in a few words. I changed the subject to lighter things. Our hopes for the school's future. Director Lee opened up when we talked about that, and we chatted the whole way back. When we arrived at the Women's Federation School, the place was buzzing. People were coming and going, some delivering borrowed books, others helping copy textbooks by hand. Lin Jiaojiao strutted past me carrying a stack of books, looking smug. Lin Weiwei, I've already found over 100 books. You spent the whole morning doing nothing, no borrowing, no copying. Do you really think you can still win? Did you find complete sets? I raised an eyebrow.
She scoffed.
100 books is more than your. If they're not complete sets, keep looking. The way you were strutting, I thought you'd already won. She glared at me and stormed off to keep copying. Mother Huo rushed over, worried. She must have noticed I came back empty-handed. Weiwei, you're finally back. If it doesn't work out, don't be too upset, okay? Mingzhu handed me 3 books with a pained expression. This is all I could find. Most of the villagers already lent their books to those other girls. I thanked her, took the books, and reassured everyone. I already have a solution.
Don't worry about me.
Afternoon classes are about to start. Let's get to the classroom. You really have a plan? Mingzhu was stunned. We were talking about over 1,000 books. I patted her shoulder. Don't you trust me? She looked at me hard. I could tell she wanted to believe me, but thought I was just putting on a brave face. I knew that after school, she'd go right back out trying to borrow more books on my behalf. That's the kind of person she was. I'd helped her when it was hard, and she was determined to do the same for me. The afternoon flew by. At dismissal, Mingzhu picked up her daughter Xingxing. Mother Hua, Yining, and I were about to leave when Lin Jiaojiao and the other girls blocked our path. You haven't looked for a single book all day. Are you planning something sneaky? Trying to steal ours? I glanced into the office, where they'd stacked their borrowed and hand-copied books. You found quite a few, but I'm not interested in them. Don't worry. How can we trust that? What if you sneak in tonight and steal them? I looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Lin Jiaojiao, even if I gave you my word, you wouldn't believe me. So, why don't you all just sleep here tonight? After all, you want to guard against me, and against each other, right? The girls exchanged uneasy looks. A few of them quietly sat back down at their desks. They weren't leaving. Lin Jiaojiao shot me a cold glare and stayed put too. I didn't care. I turned and headed home. At the school gate, I found Shiyuan waiting for me. I smiled and walked over. Mother Hua and Yining caught up, teasing him. My son is here to pick up his wife from work. I was worried about Mom's first day here. I came to check on her, he said with a straight face. Mother Hua laughed. Look at that, got married and suddenly learned how to talk sweet. Yining piped up. That's because second Annie trained second uncle so well. He talks all sweet now, and he even competes with me for attention. Last night when I went to the bathroom, I heard. Shiyuan scooped her up and put her on his shoulders before she could finish that sentence. My face went red. Mother Hua just chuckled warmly. It's wonderful that you young lovebirds are so happy together. Then she suggested taking Yining to see the golden wheat fields the girl had been asking about, giving Shiyuan and me some time alone. I was about to say it wasn't necessary, but Shiyuan spoke first.
We'll head home then.
Be careful, Mom, come back soon. After they left, I turned to him. I thought you came to check on your mother, he smiled. Well, Mom already figured out it's because my wife trained me so well. Before I could argue, he pulled me by the hand. Come with me. I want to show you something. He led me through winding paths to a sheltered hollow behind our mountain. It was overgrown with tall brush and wild grass. I'm planning to clear this out before winter, he said. Build some chicken coops from wood. Come spring, we can raise free-range chickens. I was surprised. He held my hand and explained. I asked around. We're allowed to keep chickens and ducks on our own land. We can't sell them directly, but we can trade eggs and poultry with villagers or people in the county for things we need. Even during the strictest periods of control, people still found ways to survive. I thought it over. I don't mind you having something you want to do, but you're still dealing with the cadre school, and raising animals is hard work. And our money. Weiwei, the money is all in your space. It's all yours. I know that even if I did nothing, my wife would never let me go hungry. But what kind of man would that make me? He pulled me into his arms and gently stroked my hair. My Weiwei is so capable. I can't just sit around doing nothing. I nodded quietly, but inside I was happy. I could see Shiyuan's determination to provide for our family. As long as we all pulled in the same direction, we'd be fine. So after dinner every night, we'll come up here to clear the land. I looked at the overgrown hollow, already planning. He took my hand and turned it over, examining it front and back. "What?" I asked. He leaned close and whispered something in my ear. My face caught fire instantly. I smacked his chest.
Shiyuan.
"Have you no shame?" "Why would I need shame with my own wife?" He was completely unapologetic. He squeezed my hand. "Sanzi, and I can finish this in a few days. You just stay home and wait for me like a good girl." I kept my mouth shut after that, afraid he'd say something even more embarrassing. He saw me blushing and laughed, scooped me up and carried me down the mountain. He only set me down at our front gate. Mother Hua and Yinin were already back. Father Hua and Sanzi had made dinner and laid everything out on the stone table in the courtyard. "Come eat," Father Hua called. Sanzi proudly set down a plate of scrambled eggs. "Big sis, look golden and perfect," I teased him. "Free-range eggs are always golden." His eye twitched. Shiyuan jumped in. "Let me taste. My brother is so domestic. Some lucky girl is going to snatch him up." "Forget it. Neither of you gets any." "These are for Yinin." Sanzi pushed the plate over to her. Yinin took a bite with her little chopsticks, chewed thoughtfully, and nodded. "Delicious." "Uncle Sanzi, Yinin hopes a nice Annie will want you too." Sanzi was speechless. I ruffled Yinin's hair. "My niece is so kind and thoughtful." Father and Mother who watched us with exasperated smiles. "Stop bullying Sanzi, all of you." "Exactly. Leave me alone. Uncle and Auntie love me the most." We sat around the table, teasing and laughing through the meal. The warmth felt real and precious. During dinner, Mother slipped me 2 extra boiled eggs. "Eat up, Weiwei. You need the nutrition." My heart swelled. I had a whole space full of food, but they didn't know that. They were all caring for me in their own way. I was about to share 1 egg with Yinin when I caught movement outside the courtyard wall, several shadowy figures. I stood up abruptly and walked toward them. They scrambled to their feet and bolted. "Run, run. Don't let them catch us." "So embarrassing. I told you we shouldn't come spy on people's homes. If my mom finds out I was peeping at a man, she'll kill me." "Who is that?" Shiyuan set down his chopsticks and came over, just in time to see a few girls running away. I looked at him, then looked again. Girls sneaking around to peek. They certainly weren't here to see me. I turned and walked back to the table without a word. Shiyuan sensed the shift immediately and followed. "Weiwei, I don't know them." My tone was a bit cool. He started to panic. "Weiwei, I was at the cadre school all day." Father Hua stood up. "Shiyuan, come with me." I caught myself quickly. "Dad, it's a misunderstanding." "I trust Shiyuan." Father Hua sighed and glared at his son. "Don't take your blessings for granted. If I ever find out you've done anything wrong, I'll break your legs." "Dad, what are you talking about?" Shiyuan was bewildered. He genuinely had no idea who those girls were. He turned to Sanzi suspiciously. "Was it you? Confess." Sanzi pointed at himself in shock. "Me? I spent all day bent over in the fields cutting 30 rows of rice. When would I have time for that?" I calmed everyone down. "It's nothing serious. Those girls didn't do anything wrong." I overreacted. Mother Hua said warmly. "Anyone would feel uncomfortable." "Weiwei, if you're upset, just give Shiyuan a good beating." "I second that," Sanzi added gleefully. "Hit him first, ask questions later." Shiyuan sighed and held out his arms.
"Fine."
"Whether it's my fault or not, hit me and get it out of your system." I couldn't help laughing. "Am I really that petty?" "Your punishment is doing the dishes." "Thank you for the opportunity, dear wife." He cleared the table without another word. Sanzi sidled up to me. "Don't worry, big sis. Huo Shiyuan has ordered that no women are allowed within 50 meters of the cadre school. He practically checks whether the mosquitoes flying over the wall are male or female. And brother-in-law is crazy about you. He'd never do anything wrong. I trust his character. But you watch yourself, too. Find a nice girl, settle down, but never be the kind of man who breaks hearts. And definitely don't. Big sis, I despise cheaters more than anything. If I ever become one, I'll castrate myself." "What kind of nonsense?" Shiyuan appeared and smacked him on the back of the neck. "Go to bed." Sanzi rubbed his neck and shuffled off, looking wounded. Shiyuan took my hand. "Dishes are done. Shall we go to our room?" Up north, darkness came early, sunset at 6, pitch black by 7. No electricity in the village, no entertainment. People ate dinner and went to bed, then got up at dawn to work. The same thing every day. I wasn't sleepy yet, so I moved around the room for a while, then told Shiyuan I was going into my space. Today marked a milestone. I'd completed my daily check-in streak and earned my 600 yuan reward. But beyond collecting that, I had something more important to do. I sat down by the little TV screen and pulled out the supporting characters collection I'd won from the lottery. I trusted Shiyuan completely, but I worried about some girl making a move on him. In this era, even a rumor about improper conduct between men and women could get someone shot. If my handbook could warn me in advance, I wanted to nip any potential disaster in the bud. I flipped through page after page. The person of interest column on each entry, none of them said Huo Shiyuan. Until I reached a name that immediately stood out. Mu Wanting. Under person of interest, it read, Huo Shiyuan. My expression darkened when I saw it. There really was a girl connected to Shiyuan. I stayed on that page. This Mu Wanting lived in Rome County. I was certain she hadn't appeared in our lives yet, and I didn't know if we could avoid her. Is she your man's woman? The little TV blurted out, startling me. Your woman. I shot back without thinking. Wah, I can't have a woman. It displayed a crying face on its screen. I patted it. Wake up. Let's get to business. The little TV perked up immediately. Master, I have a piece of good news and another piece of good news. Which do you want first? If they're both good news, you don't need the suspense. It didn't understand why its dramatic build-up wasn't working. Apparently some headquarters training had told it this approach was more exciting.
Fine, I said.
Let's hear the first good news, then the other. Drumroll. You've completed a full month of daily check-ins. Your reward is 600 yuan, 60 crisp 10 yuan bills. The whole space lit up with disco lights. A balloon floated down carrying a red envelope, landing right in front of me. I raised an eyebrow at the TV. I have to say, you've got a flair for romance. Do TVs come in male and female? Master, you're so naughty. Little TV is blushing. Hearts filled the screen. I laughed dryly. I'd hit a nerve. I pocketed the money and nudged it along. Stop swooning. What's the second piece of good news? Since Master is so outstanding and reliable, Little TV will now provide comprehensive care across 3 dimensions: people, emotion, and desire. Are you sure this is appropriate? Those 3 categories sounded awfully suggestive. My mind went places. Master, ready for the people dimension? Can't wait. Behind me came a bleating sound. I turned around, 2 goats, a mother and her baby. Happy, Master? I nodded. 2 goats out of thin air? Goats were expensive and hard to come by. Of course I was happy. But what does this have to do with people? Mother and child. Family bonds.
Just like humans, I laughed.
The TV was clearly making things up as it went, but the gift was genuinely great. Now for the emotion dimension. Look up, Master. Feathers rained down from above, and a bunch of hens came tumbling out of the sky, clucking wildly. I stared. What's the emotional connection here? They have 0 emotional attachment, so you can eat them guilt-free. We're considering your feelings from a psychological perspective. I couldn't help applauding. The logic was absolutely insane, but somehow the TV always found a way to justify itself. Master, I heard your husband wants to raise chickens. I traded for these from another space. It was really hard work. You can trade with other spaces. My eyes lit up. The TV didn't seem to grasp the significance of what it had just revealed. It just nodded proudly. I'm very capable indeed. Now the last one. I braced myself. The first 2 rewards were live animals. Would the third one be a living creature too? Something connected to desire? Surely not an actual person. A mahjong set appeared in front of me.
Surprise.
After the harvest, winters up north are boring. Now you can play mahjong with your family. I racked my brain to think of this. Thank you for your racked brain. Gambling desire was still desire, I supposed. After the rewards, the TV waited for praise. I gave it a thumbs up. Wonderful. Truly impressive. Show me everything you can do. I love it. If it could actually trade with other spaces, the possibilities were endless. The TV beamed with joy at my compliments. I started my new month of daily check-in lottery draws. The prize pool seemed to have upgraded. The old, Republican-era grandmother's foot wrappings option was gone, replaced by trade male characters' underwear for luxury gifts. Progress, I supposed. I hit start, said a little prayer, and hit stop. The screen went wild, flickering, stretching, flattening, shaking violently. I'd never seen the TV do this before. I was terrified it was about to explode. Before I could react, a massive dark shape flew out of its belly and landed behind me with a solid thump. What is that? The TV returned to normal. Master, go look. Today's prize is called Easy Grow. Easy Grow? These feature names were really something. I walked over and found 6 perfectly square blocks of rich black soil. So if I plant something in these, it just grows? Does that mean I could have fresh vegetables even in winter? Master is so smart. I got to work immediately. I didn't have many seeds in my space, but I had plenty of potatoes. I cut them into chunks and pressed them into the Easy Grow soil. How long until they're ready? Same speed as the outside world. I turned to ask the TV, but its screen had gone dark, sleep mode. I checked the time. I'd been in here for about an hour. Did the TV need to rest after an hour of activity? That delicate? The little TV was exhausted and shut down, so I left it alone and came out of my space. The moment I appeared on the Kong, Shiyuan pulled me into his arms. Weiwei. His voice was trembling slightly. I pushed back gently and looked up. What's wrong? You were gone a long time. Usually I'm only in my space for 5 or 10 minutes. Today it had been 65. And he'd noticed I wasn't in the best mood before I went in. I understood his worry and smiled. There was just a lot to deal with today.
And
I got a lot of stuff. I stepped back and looked at him. Brace yourself. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, over a dozen chickens were flapping around the room while 2 goats, a mother and baby, stood on the floor. I was also holding a mahjong set. These are all from today's rewards. There are also 6 plots of magic farmland, but those can't come out of the space. He was speechless. He climbed off the Kong and started trying to wrangle chickens and grab goats. The noise was tremendous. Mother Huo opened her door across the way. Shiyuan? Why do I hear chickens? And goats? Father Huo added. I panicked and mentally swept everything back into my space.
Instant silence.
His parents stood outside our door, completely confused. Were they both going senile? Hearing things at the same time? Shiyuan called out. Everything's fine. Weiwei and I were just playing. I wanted to sink through the floor. He quickly added, what I mean is we're going to have chickens and goats soon. Wonderful, wonderful. Your father and I are going back to sleep now. Mother Huo's voice was warm with amusement. She closed her door without pressing further. She definitely got the wrong idea. I groaned. Shiyuan laughed. What wrong idea? What kind of fun involves goat noises? Stop talking. I sighed. Let's keep the animals in the space for now. Once you build the coops and pen tomorrow, we'll bring them out. He agreed, swept up the chicken feathers with a duster, and pulled me to bed. His arm wrapped around my waist, and we fell asleep together. The next morning, the village roosters crowed, and everyone was up early. After breakfast, we all went our separate ways. I took Mother Huo and Enin to the school. At the gate, Lin Weiwei and her crew were washing their faces with basins. They'd actually slept at the school overnight to guard their books. They looked at me with smug, challenging expressions. I barely gave them a glance. But before I could walk inside, a small hand tugged my sleeve. Teacher Lin, I went to my uncle's house in the next village and got this for you. I looked down. Little Xiao was holding out a battered 3rd-grade Chinese textbook. My heart melted. Xiao, thank you so much. Then more children crowded around. Teacher, I found one too. I brought 3. My grandpa's old books, can they be used? They were all pulling books from their pockets and bags, offering me whatever they'd managed to find. I was genuinely moved. Lin Weiwei sneered from across the yard. What's the point of giving her books? She still has the fewest. We don't care. We want Teacher Lin. Yeah, we only want Teacher Lin. The children gathered around me protectively, absolutely unwavering. I beamed at them, then turned to Lin Weiwei. Being jealous won't help you. Better get back to copying. Remember, a bet is a bet, Lin Weiwei. Don't come crying when you lose. The other girls piled on with their taunts, but I waved them off. You're all just bitter because nobody loves you. Lin Jiao nearly swore at me but caught herself. The yard was full of students, and she didn't want to turn them against her right before the competition. She stormed back to her copying. She was confident. She'd borrowed the most books, copied the most pages, and done the neatest work. In her mind, winning was a sure thing. She practically skipped back to her desk. Mother Hua and Mingzhu kept glancing at me, clearly anxious. But I wasn't worried. I pulled Mingzhu aside. These kids stood up for me. I can't let them down, right? So you need to go borrow books. Now, she was getting worked up. I smiled. So I've decided to stew a chicken for them at lunch. What? She stared at me wide-eyed. Teacher Lin, you're giving me high blood pressure. I laughed. The book situation is handled, I promise. For now, let's just give these kids a great morning of classes. Let Lin Jiao exhaust herself. Mingzhu studied my face carefully. I wasn't joking. She finally nodded.
Fine.
I trust you. But where is this chicken coming from? We eat from the village communal kitchen. They haven't cooked chicken in years. My mother sent me one. I'll go get it. After 3 classes, I ducked around a corner where nobody could see and pulled a chicken for my space. Mingzhu volunteered to pluck it. Mother Hua took over the cooking. She was an excellent cook. She stewed the chicken with potatoes and chili peppers on the school stove. The aroma filled the entire courtyard within minutes. The children could barely sit still during the last class, swallowing their saliva and sneaking glances at the steaming pot outside. I couldn't help smiling. Read the lesson one more time, and then you can go eat chicken. They practically shouted the words off the page. Over in the office, Lin Jiao and her group perked up too. The smell was irresistible. Since her family's food had been stolen, she'd barely tasted meat. She was already planning to grab extra pieces and soak her rice in the broth. The children's reading voices stopped, and they all grabbed their bowls and rushed into the courtyard. Grandma Hua, the chicken smells amazing. We could smell it during class. Is it ready yet? Did you put dried potatoes and noodles in it? My mom always does that. They crowded around Mother Hua, who smiled warmly. Try mine today, and next time I'll learn your mom's recipe. The kids thrust their bowls forward, eyes glued to the pot. I watched from the side, smiling. These children were truly adorable. But my smile didn't last 2 minutes. Lin Jiao and her group pushed their way to the front, holding out their aluminum lunch boxes. We've been working so hard getting books for the students. Just give me a drumstick, that's all I need. Me too, I'll just take a drumstick. I want the gizzard. Mother Hua instinctively pulled the ladle away. One chicken isn't even enough for all these kids. Mingzhu stepped forward, took the ladle from Mother Hua's hand, and stood guard. This chicken is for the students. Lin Jiao glared at her. Don't be so stingy. We've been working for the school these past few days. Mingzhu didn't flinch. You're working for yourself. You want the monthly salary and the respectability of being called a teacher. But someone like you doesn't deserve to be one. And you do? A servant girl someone took in out of pity. You think you can lecture me? I was about to step in, but Mingzhu stood her ground, speaking calmly and clearly. I'm here because of Teacher Lin's kindness. That's true. And these children are eating chicken because of Teacher Lin's kindness too. Maybe I'm not the most qualified teacher, but I'm more qualified than you. Because when the children haven't even eaten yet, I would never try to grab food from their pot. Lin Jiao's tongue tangled in fury. She spun toward me. Lin Weiwei, you did this on purpose. You're so cheap you can't even share a bite of chicken with your neighbors. The other girls piled on, accusing me of being petty and unfair. I'd had enough. Who's stopping you from eating? The village serves communal meals. Go eat there instead of fighting children for their food. You're grown women, have you no shame? And if I were truly cheap, you wouldn't even be smelling this chicken. If any of you aren't cheap, go home and slaughter one of your own chickens. I guarantee my students won't come begging you for a bite. That's right. We don't beg. We'd rather starve than beg. We have dignity. Teacher Lin is right. The children rallied behind me. Lin Jiao and her friends turned green with frustration. Now please step aside so my students can eat. Before I even had to move, the older kid stepped forward and formed a wall, pushing Lin Jiaojiao's group out. The little ones served themselves first, then the bigger kids. The courtyard was filled with the smell of chicken and the sound of happy slurping. After the children were served, Mingzhu set aside a plate for me, Mother Hua, and the little ones. She placed a whole drumstick in my bowl. I stared at it, surprised. She'd already given Xingxing a piece of chicken and taken only a few potatoes for herself, eating them with her sorghum rice. You eat it, she said simply. This school only survives because of you. I appreciated her loyalty. She was someone who repaid kindness in every way she could. I moved the drumstick into a separate bowl and placed it between Yinin and Xingxing. Let the children have it. They're still growing. Mother Hua put a piece of chicken in both Mingzhu's bowl and mine. You're both good girls. Look out for each other, but also take care of yourselves. We women need to be kinder to ourselves too. Mingzhu's chopsticks paused for a moment. Then she nodded firmly. Mom, you need to eat well too, I said, putting chicken in her bowl. We each had a piece. I was satisfied. This chicken is incredible. What does your family feed them? Mingzhu asked. She noticed when we killed it that the bird was unusually large, maybe 10 pounds. I made something up. My parents are pretty skilled. They raise good chickens. In this era, people could barely feed themselves, let alone fatten up a chicken. Getting 1 to 3 or 5 pounds was considered impressive. Mingzhu nodded, impressed. I took a bite and sighed. It really is delicious. I had no idea where my space had sourced chickens this good. If Shiyuan could raise this breed in the mountains, big, fat free-range birds running around eating bugs and worms, fed some grain on schedule, that would be perfect. I was so lost in happy thoughts that I almost forgot about the group of sour-faced girls standing behind us, staring at their bowls of plain white radish and greens. She gets chicken, and we get this. It's so unfair. How is Lin Weiwei so lucky? She gets sent down and still finds her birth parents and eats chicken. It makes me sick. Lin Jiaojiao, you said you knew her before. Was she always like this? Lin Jiaojiao slammed down her chopsticks, irritated. The old Lin Weiwei was an idiot. Soft as dough. I could twist her however I wanted. Yeah, right? Stop bragging and drink your radish soup. The other girls didn't believe her. But Lin Jiaojiao wasn't listening anymore. Something had clicked in her brain. The current version of me wasn't just different from the old Lin Weiwei. I was nothing like the girl who'd first returned to the Lin family either. Something fundamental had changed.
What had happened to me? Could it be
that I'd also been reborn? Lin Jiaojiao suddenly stood up and stared at me with intense, piercing eyes. I turned around, glanced at her, and poked at the chicken in my bowl. Want me to let you lick the bones I've already sucked on? Lin Weiwei, I know your secret. Her lips curled into a creepy smile. That's why you chose Huo Shiyuan, isn't it? What nonsense are you talking about? Motherhood jumped in before I could respond. Lin Jiaojiao lashed out at her. You old fool. Your whole family treats Lin Weiwei like a treasure, but I'm telling you, she knew your family would be sent down, and she never tried to help. She wanted it to happen so you'd all have to rely on her, worship her. Huo Shiyuan is an idiot sleeping next to a fox spirit. Doesn't that scare you? Mother Hua was shaking with anger. Shut your mouth. Why? Afraid the truth hurts. Lin Jiaojiao stepped closer to Mother Hua. I moved fast, closed the distance in one stride, and slapped her across the face. She tried to swing back, but her wrist was caught by a man who'd just rushed through the gate. Huo Shiyuan. She froze, then looked up in surprise.
Zhou,
She hit me first. He didn't respond. He just let go of her wrist and turned toward me. But Shiyuan was already at my side, pulling me into his arms. Are you okay? He asked softly. I shook my head. Then I pointed at Lin Jiaojiao. I think she's mentally ill. Nothing she said made any sense. She's claiming I somehow knew about the family being sent down? If I could predict the future that well, would I have let her torment me when she first came to the Lin household? That's because you hadn't changed back then. Lin Jiaojiao stamped her foot. She grabbed Huo Shiyuan's sleeve desperately. Comrade Zhou, listen to me. Lin Weiwei is a terrible person. Enough. Are we close? Huo Shiyuan cut her off coldly. We were in our last. She caught herself. tongue tangling. She couldn't exactly tell everyone about a past life without being labeled insane. Her eyes reddened. She looked at me with a bitter, twisted smile. Lin Weiwei, I don't know what happened to you, but I will tear off your mask. Just wait. She ran out of the courtyard. Huo Shiyuan stepped toward me. Comrade Lin, are you all right? Shiyuan shifted his body to block Huo Shiyuan's view of me. Huo Shiyuan's expression darkened, and he looked away. I went to Mother Hua and rubbed her back gently. Mom. She took my hands. Weiwei, I don't believe a single word that woman said. Don't let her get into your head. If she were a good person, she wouldn't have ended up where she is. Thank you, Mom. We're family. No need for thanks. I smiled, then turned to Shiyuan. Why are you here? He explained that Huo Shiyuan had wanted to visit the village, see how the autumn harvest was going, and know what help the villagers might need. I see. Go ahead and finish that. If you're heading back, could you walk Mom home to rest? Huo Shiyuan spoke up. Of course. Even if it's out of the way, Comrade Hua and I can escort her. I thanked them, watched the three of them walk off, and went back to my classroom. Meanwhile, Lin Jiaojia ran all the way to a small grove on the west side of the village before stopping. Her mind was racing, replaying both lifetimes like a movie. In her previous life, she'd been reborn knowing that her biological parents were wealthy capitalists and that some village girl was living the life that should have been hers. She'd manipulated her adoptive parents into discovering the switch and sending her back to the city. Once there, she'd systematically destroyed the girl who'd taken her place, me. She'd made my parents despise me, arranged the worst possible marriage for me, ruined my reputation. By the end, I was living a fate worse than death. She'd considered it payback. This time around, everything had started the same way. But then things went off script. When exactly did she lose control? It hit her like lightning. The night she drugged both me and Huo Shiyuan, planning for us to be caught in a compromising position. She'd watched us together with her own eyes, then left to bring my parents to catch us. But when they arrived, there was nothing to find. And instead of scandal, the Huo family came to formally propose marriage. The couple who should have been torn apart by the family's downfall were now happily married, sweet as honey. And the whole Huo family had followed us to this village. If this didn't have something to do with me, she didn't know what did. She clenched her fists. She refused to let me win. Whether I was reborn or something else entirely, she would bring me down. And Huo Shiyuan, she'd captured him in her previous life, and she'd do it again. She just needed to clean herself up, dress nicely, be more forward. Men were visual creatures. A little effort, and he'd be hers. Feeling confident again, she walked home with a spring in her step. But right at her front door, she nearly collided with a short, plump, middle-aged woman. The woman's eyes lit up when she saw her. You're the Lin family girl, aren't you? Lin Jiaojia gave a cold and tried to brush past her. She had no patience for village women. But the woman followed her, beaming. Sweetheart, I'm Su Wangsai's mother, your future mother-in-law. You're so pretty. My son loves pretty girls. Once you two get married and have babies, the children will be beautiful for sure. While I was back at the school, things were falling apart for Lin Jiaojia at home.
From
What I heard later, after she ran from the Women's Federation, she was met at her front door by a stocky middle-aged woman, Su Wangsai's mother, grinning from ear to ear. You must be the Lin family girl. I'm your future mother-in-law. My Wankai just loves pretty girls. Once you two are married and have babies, they'll be so beautiful. Lin Jiaojia was disgusted. Who's marrying your son? Get out. The woman tried to push past her. Don't be shy, girlie. I'll just go talk to your parents. She was short but built like a barrel, and she shoved Lin Jiaojia aside like she weighed nothing. She added cheerfully, if you were really some pampered capitalist's daughter, I wouldn't even want you. But you were raised in a village. You look like you can do hard work and bear sons. That's what I'm after. That was the worst possible thing to say to Lin Jiaojia. She snapped, grabbed the woman's hair, and started dragging her around. The woman screamed and flailed, but her arms were too short to reach. Lin Jiaojia slapped her across the face. I wouldn't marry your son if he were the last man alive. A village mudleg dares to dream about me? I spit on your whole family. She kicked the woman out the door. By then, neighbors had gathered to watch. That's when Lin Jiaojiao's adoptive parents, father and mother Lin, came home carrying bags of purchases, looking pleased with themselves. Their faces went green when they saw who their daughter was fighting with. Mother Lin rushed over and started hitting Lin Jiaojiao. Let go. Let go of her. Father Lin scolded from behind. When did you become so unruly? You can't hit people. Lin Jiaojiao released the woman and screamed at her parents. She said I'm supposed to marry her son. I'd never marry some village nobody. She's insulting me. Aren't you going to do something? Her parents looked away awkwardly. Su Wangcai's mother was sobbing and wiping her face. She pointed at the Lins and erupted. I spit on your whole family. You two begged me to accept your girl. You told me she was pretty, had wide hips, was good for bearing children, grew up in the village, was a hard worker. I paid 300 yuan in bride price. But now I see, even if her hips reach the sky, my family wants nothing to do with her. Who knows if my son would be marrying a wife or a demon? She spat at Lin Jiaojiao, then stuck her palm out at Mother Lin. 300 yuan. Give it back. Every last cent, otherwise I'm going to the police to report you for marriage fraud. Mother Lin immediately hid the shopping bags behind her back and smiled nervously. Oh, in-law, it's all a misunderstanding. This naughty girl doesn't know her manners. I'll make her apologize. Lin Jiaojiao exploded. Mom, what are you saying? Who's your in-law? Give her back the money right now. I'm not marrying any Su Wangcai. That name sounds like it belongs to someone with brain damage. Neighbor snickered. Su Wangcai's mother, hearing her son called stupid, charged forward and slapped Lin Jiaojiao twice across the face, knocking her to the ground. She would have body-slammed her if Mother Lin hadn't grabbed her. Mother Lin pleaded, in-law, be reasonable. Smack her a couple times if you want, but if you kill her, there's no wedding and no money. That stopped the woman mid-kick. She pointed at Lin Jiaojiao's nose. A woman like this? My son wouldn't even want her. For 300 yuan, I could save up a little more and get him a proper local girl, 10 times better than this half-bred thing. She demanded her money back. Mother Lin looked desperately at Father Lin. Father Lin glanced coldly at Lin Jiaojiao. A girl like her, she just needs more discipline. Mrs. Su, go home. I'll straighten her out and deliver her to you. The woman hesitated. Then Father Lin added, my daughter's adoptive family is the Qians from your village. Once the kids are married, 3 sets of parents will be helping them. You really think they'll struggle? At the mention of the Qian family, one of the most respected households in Darong village, known for their hardworking sons and capable daughters-in-law, the woman's expression softened considerably.
Fine.
For the Qian's sake, I'll give you one more chance. But if she acts up again, you're giving me back every yuan. Of course, of course. Thank you, in-law. After they finally ushered the woman out and the neighbors dispersed, Lin Jiaojiao picked herself up from the dirt, crying. Mom, Dad, are you trying to ruin me? How can you make me marry a village farmer? I'm supposed to be what? Mother Lin cut her off. Your father and I aren't capitalists anymore. You're nobody's princess. If it weren't for the Qian family connection, nobody in this village would even bother matchmaking for you. Then let nobody bother. I don't want to marry anyone here. Father Lin spat directly in her face and snarled. You ungrateful wretch. You nearly ruined everything. Let me make this clear. The 300 yuan in bride price? We already spent it. Every last cent. Whether you want to marry him or not, you're marrying him. While all this was happening, I was blissfully unaware of the chaos unfolding at the Lin household. From what I pieced together later, after Lin Jiaojiao learned her parents had already spent the 300 yuan bride price from the Su family, she completely lost it. You basically sold me. Do you have any idea what you've ruined? Father Lin didn't care. What big plans could you possibly have? You can't get food from the Qian family. You can't earn money working in the village. Our whole family is about to starve. You marrying out solves everything. Why wouldn't you go? Lin Jiaojiao gritted her teeth. I don't care. I'm not marrying into the Su family. Find a way to return the money. With what? We already bought things with it. There's nothing left to return. Father Lin tried to walk past her with the shopping bags. She grabbed them and smashed half the contents on the ground. Pastries and canned goods shattered across the dirt. Father Lin lunged at her, but Lin Yuhao was faster. He kicked his sister square in the face. When she got up, she spat out a tooth. She stared at the bloody tooth, then laughed. A wild, unhinged laugh. She ran inside, grabbed the fire poker, and came back swinging at Lin Yuhao. He ran screaming. When the parents tried to intervene, she hit them too. You dare hit your own parents. I used to bow and scrape to you because you had money. But look at what you've done. You're obsessed with having a son, terrified of daughters. You're pathetic. Her eyes dropped to a very specific part of Father Lin's body. He instinctively stepped back. But she was faster. She swung the poker right at his groin. Father Lin howled. She kept hitting and screaming about being the female lead, whose existence made theirs possible. When she finally tired herself out, she snatched everything they'd bought, locked herself in the house, and barricaded the door. She went through the purchases on the Kong. 2 boxes of peach pastries, a case of canned food, 2 cooked chicken legs, peanuts, sunflower seeds, a bolt of pretty fabric, and 3 pairs of cloth shoes. She tried the shoes on, none fit, and tossed them into the cooking fire. The family pounded on the door and screamed threats, but when Lin Jiaojiao turned her fierce glare on them through the window, they all went quiet. Go cancel the engagement with the Su family, she demanded. Or none of you are getting back inside. Father Lin tried reasoning with her. The Su boy may not be the sharpest, but his parents dote on him. Marry in, have a child or 2, and when the old folks die, everything is yours. They eat well, you won't go hungry. Cancel
The
engagement. She smashed his bottle of baijiu, for emphasis. Father Lin snapped. He found a rock outside and smashed the window frame to pieces. Then he and Lin Yuhao climbed through and beat her until she could barely breathe. Pinned down and desperate, Lin Jiaojiao played her last card. You could have had a high-ranking official from the capital as your son-in-law, but instead you chose an idiot. You're the real fools. Lin Yuhao kept hitting her, but Father Lin caught something in her words and stopped his son. What do you mean by that? She looked up with tears in her eyes. Huo Shiyuan came to the cadre school. You knew we'd been exchanging letters. Why do you think a man from a powerful family in the capital would come all the way out to this backwater? She needed Father Lin to believe Huo Shiyuan had come for her. If he thought she had value as bait for a powerful man, he wouldn't throw her away on a village fool. She waited for the realization to hit him. Instead, Father Lin said, You mean he came here for Lin Weiwei? Lin Jiaojiao felt like she'd been struck by lightning. Her face went white. Even Father Lin had figured that out? She forced herself to argue. Lin Weiwei is married. Why would a rich young man from the capital chase a married woman? Father Lin scoffed. Even if it's not for Lin Weiwei, it sure as hell isn't for you. But what if I could make Huo Shiyuan want me? Would you still force me to marry Su Wangkai? You have to prove you're capable of that first. Then help me. If it works, we all benefit. Father Lin considered this. They struck a deal. Before dark, the 2 of them hurried to the cadre school. The new rules prohibited women from approaching, so Father Lin went to the gate alone. He was about to say his daughter Lin Jiaojiao needed to see Comrade Zhou. But at the last second, he changed his words. Comrade, my daughter, Lin Weiwei, has an urgent matter and desperately needs to see Comrade Zhou. Please, could you ask him to come out, just for a moment? I wasn't there for any of what happened that night. I only found out the details later. Father Lin went to the cadre school gate alone, just before dark. The guard recognized my name from my earlier visit and was suspicious. This man in a worn-out suit and gold-rimmed glasses didn't look like the farmer father I described. Father Lin bribed him with 3 peach pastries wrapped in oil paper and spun a story. I'm her adoptive father. She has something urgent but can't let her husband's family know, so she came to me for help. If you don't tell Comrade Zhou and something happens to her, he'll blame you. The guard studied him, then pocketed the pastries and went inside. Huo Shiyuan had just washed up and was about to blow out his lamp when the guard knocked. Leader, someone's outside, says it's about Comrade Huo's wife. She needs to see you urgently. Huo Shiyuan was already halfway out the door before the guard finished talking. He walked through the gate into the pitch-dark countryside. Yue? Is that you? No answer. He walked further, calling my name, his voice growing worried. Whatever happened, you can come to me. Is Huo Shiyuan treating you badly? Is something wrong at home? Do you have enough to eat? He walked over 500 meters into the darkness, seeing nothing. He was about to go back for a lamp when he spotted a thin figure nearby.
His heart leapt.
He rushed forward and pulled the person into his arms. Yue, so you're not completely indifferent to me after all. I'm so happy. He gently pushed the figure back to see her face, and froze. It was Lin Weiwei. Her eyes were full of jealousy and spite, staring at him like a vengeful ghost. He shoved her away. What are you doing? Have you no shame? Don't talk to me about shame. Huo Shiyuan, you're pining after another man's wife. Where's your shame? She'd been watching from the shadows. She'd seen him walk out the gate without hesitation the moment he heard my name. She'd heard him calling for me with such tenderness. For one brief second, she'd let herself believe he was coming for her. Then he'd started saying my name, over and over. She laughed bitterly. You're desperate for me. I'm desperate for you. We're both disgusting. We're a perfect match. Why not just give in? She moved closer. He stepped back sharply. I care about her. I would never hurt her. You and I are nothing alike. She erupted into mocking laughter. Oh, the noble gentleman. You say you love her and would never harm her. Yet here you are, wrapping a married woman in your arms in the dead of night. What was your next move? Drag her into a haystack. If anyone found out, you'd escape back to the capital. But Lin Weiwei?
She'd be dead.
This era doesn't forgive that kind of scandal. Shut up, he was shaking with rage, but her words had struck something true. He took a step back. Even if every woman on earth disappeared, I would never want you, Lin Weiwei. He turned to leave, and found someone standing behind him in the dark. You're not going anywhere, Comrade Zhou. A club swung out. Huo Shiyuan couldn't dodge in time. He collapsed. Lin Weiwei walked over and kicked his leg to make sure he was really unconscious. Then she looked at Father Lin. There's a row of firewood stacks over there. Out in the open? If someone finds you tomorrow, you'll be ruined too. I don't care anymore. She and Father Lin dragged Huo Shiyuan's limp body into the firewood. She climbed on top of him and started pulling off his clothes, the same man who'd been her husband for decades in her previous life. She knew exactly what she was doing. Father Lin tossed her a packet of drugs and left without looking back. She forced the pills into Huo Shiyuan's mouth. From somewhere in the darkness, two quiet voices murmured to each other. This woman is vicious enough to destroy even herself. Brother-in-law, should we intervene? From outside in the darkness, I heard Shiyuan's cold voice. Intervene? No. He grabbed Sanzi before he could rush out and pulled him back. Go home. People who ruin others' plans get what they deserve. Sanzi gave a thumbs up. Fine by me. That dog deserves whatever he gets for lusting after my big sis. Hopefully the drugs knock him out so hard he never thinks about women again. Stop talking. Let's go. When those two walked back into our courtyard, I was building chicken coops with Father and Mother Huo. They'd been gone a long time, supposedly gathering branches, and Sanzi came back grinning like a fool. What happened out there? Why are you laughing like that? Big sis, let me tell you. Shut it. Shiyuan cut him off. Sanzi shrugged at me helplessly. Brother-in-law won't let me say. I walked over with the oil lamp and looked Shiyuan up and down, trying to figure out what was going on. Did you embarrass yourself in front of him? That was the only thing I could think of. I even circled around behind him to check if his pants were wet. Sanzi nearly died laughing. Big sis, you are my hero. You actually thought he wet his pants. Shiyuan took a deep, controlled breath. Sanzi immediately slapped a hand over his own mouth. He grabbed the tools from Father Huo and threw himself into work. Uncle Huo, let me do it. Before certain people accuse me of freeloading, Father Huo played along, lightly scolding Shiyuan to ease the tension. One flick to Sanzi's forehead later, everyone was back to work. With the two of them handling the chicken coop, I went inside. I had something I'd been looking forward to all day. I slipped into my space. The little TV was already chirping apologies the moment I appeared. Master, I'm so sorry. I fainted in front of you yesterday. I'm a failure. I'm a bad little TV. I laughed. It's fine. Knowing your mistake is good, But I can't fix it, it said matter-of-factly. I can only stay awake for 1 hour per day. Headquarters is worried space owners might overuse my functions and create too many complications. You only do lotteries, right? Haha. That suspicious laugh told me everything. It had hidden abilities it wasn't sharing yet. I pretended not to care. Well, even without you, I still have the treasure pot and easy grow. I turned to check on the easy grow plots and gasped. The potato chunks I'd planted less than 20 hours ago had grown into full, lush green plants ready for harvest. I pulled up a stalk and there they were. Big, plump potatoes with thin yellow skin, perfectly healthy. I pulled up all 6 plants. Every single one had exactly 7 potatoes. Why 7 each? Is that some kind of rule? The little TV screen was streaming with animated tears. A tiny river had formed at the bottom of the display. Master, you think the treasure pot and easy grow are more useful than me? I'm crying. I try to comfort it. They are really useful though. One grows food, the other copies things. You just do lotteries. I trailed off with fake sympathy. The TV puffed up indignantly. I can visit other spaces. I can bring back good stuff. I can find out what happens 3 years from now by asking around. My best friend is a little bathtub in a neighboring space. Her owner is living in 1977. Do you know what big thing happens in 77? The college entrance exam gets reinstated, I said calmly. The TV screen filled with giant question marks. It was completely thrown off. I grinned. You're a super powerful space, and I'm a super powerful owner. I've already lived through all of this once. The TV went silent, devastated that its gossip advantage had been neutralized. I moved on to the important question. The potatoes from Easy Grow are huge and healthy. If I collect the seeds and plant them in real soil outside, would they solve the problems of low crop yields and pest damage? The TV's screen lit up with heart-shaped eyes. Master, you're brilliant. I'm so much luckier than that little bathtub. Her owner is an idiot compared to you. I corrected it gently. All comrades are good comrades. Then it explained the details. Outside the space, the seeds wouldn't be limited to 7 fruits per plant like inside. They'd follow natural growing seasons based on local climate, no magical speed growing. But the quality would still be far superior to regular seeds, higher yields, better pest resistance. In other words, amazing seeds that grow normally but produce much, much more. My mind was already racing. I'd grow every variety I could in my space, collect the seeds, and plant them in real ground come spring. If crop yields went up, we'd have plenty of grain left over after paying our quotas. Every family could eat their fill. And with full stomachs, people could raise chickens in the mountains, keep geese and ducks in their yards, fatten up pigs, tend goats and cattle. Everyone, every person, every animal could finally get to eat well. Things were looking up. Everything felt full of hope. I arranged the harvested potatoes in a corner of my space and picked the best-looking one to keep. Master, I only have 30 minutes before I shut down. The little TV urged me to hurry with the lottery. I patted its screen and hit start. Life didn't seem to be missing anything anymore, and yet everything was still needed. Whatever the lottery gave me would be welcome. I hit stop. Colorful ribbons burst across the screen. Before I could wonder if my reward was just a light show, a bamboo basket floated down from above. I pulled it close and looked inside. My face broke into a huge grin. I hugged the little TV and rubbed its head. Can you read my mind? Inside the basket were over a dozen packets of seeds, chili peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, green beans, eggplant, strawberries, watermelon, and more. I held up the strawberry and watermelon seeds. Do you know how precious these are right now? Current varieties have terrible yields and no pest resistance. Where did these come from? From 2018. I was stunned. Over 40 years in the future? These must have been what the little TV traded for with its friends in other spaces. I didn't say that out loud. I didn't want to embarrass it. I planted watermelon seeds into the easy grow plots. The moment the seeds went in, the dry soil turned moist, and the surrounding air grew warm. The magic soil was adjusting its temperature to match what the crop needed. It can control temperature by plant variety. The little TV started to say there was even more it could do. Then its screen went black. Time was up. I suspected it didn't want to answer that question. I left the space and found Shiyuan sitting on the edge of the Kong. I opened my palm and showed him the potato from the space. His eyes widened. It was big, round, golden, with beautifully thin skin, far superior to anything growing in the village fields. I explained about the magic farmland, how each plant only produced 7 fruits inside the space, but the seeds could be taken outside and planted in real soil. And what happens when you plant them outside? Higher yields, lower risk of pests and disease. He pulled me close. My wife is incredible, but this time I caught something in his eyes that wasn't just admiration. There was a hint of pain, something unsaid. Shiyuan, is there something you want to tell me? He raised an eyebrow. Why do you ask? Your eyes say you're not entirely happy. He was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm not always a good person, Weiwei. My possessiveness over you is so strong that even I can't fully control it. I took his hand. I don't see a problem with that. As long as we're equals in this relationship, as long as we feel the same intensity toward each other, that's balance. That's devotion, he smiled. You're right. I spread out the bedding. Then stop overthinking. Get some rest. Tomorrow morning is going to be quite a show. He looked at me curiously. You know about Lin Weiwei? I tapped his forehead. She challenged me to a book competition. Of course I know. What else would I be talking about? He realized he'd been thinking about something entirely different, whatever had happened in the evening that he and Sanzi were keeping secret. He'd forgotten the book deadline was tomorrow. He pulled a blanket over my head, playfully. I burrowed out and gave him a look. He laughed. From now on, I won't forget anything that matters to you. We fell asleep to the sounds of crickets and the warmth of the heated Kong. The next morning, Sanzi came in from outside and whispered something in Shiyuan's ear. What are you two hiding? I tried to lean in and listen. Sanzi dodged away. I looked up at Shiyuan. He scratched his head. Lin Weiwei probably won't be coming to school today. Did she die? I blurted out. He laughed out loud. Your wish didn't come true. She might be getting married first. To who? This was more shocking than if she'd actually died. Huo Shiyuan. What? Even more shocking. After a stunned pause, a small smile crept across my face. Those two really do have some kind of fate connecting them, Shiyuan asked carefully. Are you happy about this? It's none of my business. I probably shouldn't be too pleased. I tried to straighten my face, but everything about me was radiating quiet satisfaction. Shiyuan couldn't figure out why I was happy. Huo Shiyuan was a powerful man. Him marrying Lin Weiwei could mean trouble for us. I read the worry on his face and explained. Relax. If Huo Shiyuan is saying he'll marry her, Lin Weiwei must have used some underhanded trick to force it. That alone will make him resent her for the rest of their lives. She'll never be able to use his power to bully anyone. In this political climate, even he wouldn't dare abuse his position, and she certainly won't be able to either. Shiyuan playfully tapped my nose and called me clever. Just as his mother called us in for breakfast, we heard someone outside calling my name in a desperate voice.
It was Huo Shiyuan.
He looked rough, tired, and worn out. He pushed past Sanzi and headed straight for me. Sanzi tried to stop him, but got shoved aside. Shiyuan pulled me behind him and stepped forward. Shiyuan asked him why he was coming to our house looking for his wife so early in the morning. Huo Shiyuan tried to push past him, so Shiyuan punched him. Sanzi cheered from the side. Huo Shiyuan wiped blood from his mouth and turned to me. He said the thing with Lin Weiwei was a setup. She tricked him, drugged him, and he wanted to explain everything. Sanzi mocked him, asking how he ended up alone with a girl in the middle of the night if he was really innocent. I stepped out from behind Shiyuan. Huo Shiyuan's eyes lit up when he saw me. He said things between him and Lin Weiwei weren't what I thought. I told him plainly I had no thoughts about it at all. Who he married and who Lin Weiwei ended up with had nothing to do with me. That hurt him. Then he said he didn't care that I was married. Shiyuan clenched his jaw. I told Huo Shiyuan he was being extremely disrespectful. He softened his tone and said he came to this village because of me, that he gave up a good life for me. I told him coldly that if the drug hadn't worn off yet, he should go home and rest. Sanzi burst out laughing. I leaned into Shiyuan's arms. That made Huo Shiyuan furious. He asked if I was trying to humiliate him. I shot back. He was the one humiliating me. Coming to a married woman's home like this, making a scene in front of my husband, my in-laws, my brother-in-law. How was I supposed to face them after this? His so-called love was pure selfishness. He came here for his own desires, not for me. Then Lin Jiaojiao showed up, clapping and smirking. She asked Huo Shiyuan how it felt to be rejected. He told her to get lost. She grabbed him, pulled open her collar to show the marks on her neck, and said it was too late to take anything back. She tried to show me too, but Shiyuan pressed my face into his chest and said gently, "Don't look. It's dirty." Lin Jiaojiao was furious. She taunted me, saying Huo Shiyuan wanted her badly, that marrying into a powerful family in the capital was her destiny. I laughed from inside Shiyuan's arms and said if things were so wonderful between them, I could only wish them happiness. Huo Shiyuan kept insisting he was drugged. I'd had enough of both of them. I stepped out and pointed at them. I told Lin Jiaojiao that if she wanted to show off her marks so badly, I could invite the whole village to come see. And I told Huo Shiyuan that we'd barely met a handful of times. He knew I was married, and his chasing after me was shameless. He wasn't here for me. He was here for himself. Lin Jiaojiao started to call me a name, but I cut her off. Get out. I rarely lose my temper, but today I was truly disgusted. These two people had no shame between them. I swear their brains were on backwards. They really were made for each other. No wonder they ended up together in both lives. When they just stood there stunned, I grabbed a broom from the corner and started swatting them both toward the door. Huo Shiyuan had never seen me this fierce. Lin Jiaojiao tried to keep talking, so I smacked the broom right across her mouth. The dust shut her up fast. Once they were outside, I threw down the broom and locked the gate. I was about to go back inside when 3 policemen walked up. Someone had reported a case of a woman being forced. I told them it wasn't our family. They said the person claimed it happened at our house and told me to stay. I was grinding my teeth. These 2 disasters wouldn't leave me alone. I pointed at Lin Jiaojiao and Huo Shiyuan and suggested the officers talk to them instead. Maybe they were the ones who needed help. The police looked at Huo Shiyuan in his proper clothes and badge and spoke to him politely. Lin Jiaojiao casually asked what the punishment was for forcing a woman. The officer said it was a capital offense, execution. Lin Jiaojiao's face changed. She quickly grabbed Huo Shiyuan's arm and told the police he was her boyfriend, and they were getting married soon. Huo Shiyuan looked sick, but he understood her threat. He shook her off and told the officers he was the director at the cadre school and had no idea who filed this report. The police grumbled about wasting their time and left. Huo Shiyuan pushed Lin Jiaojiao away and walked off. She called after him. If he didn't come to her house tomorrow to formally propose, she'd drag them both down. He paused, then kept walking. Lin Jiaojiao turned to me looking smug, ready to brag. I clapped for her before she could speak. Congratulations to you both. A perfectly miserable match. She scoffed and said it was too early to call it miserable. I told her she should know Huo Shiyuan better than I did. After everything she'd pulled, she was worth less than a feather in his eyes. She was furious. She said Huo Shiyuan was a real official, far more powerful than my husband. I smiled and said my husband may only have a little power, but he uses every bit of it on me. Huo Shiyuan, on the other hand, would avoid her like a snake from now on. I asked if she planned to drug him again next time. She screamed that I was shameless. I shrugged. If doing those things wasn't shameful, then talking about them certainly wasn't either. She stomped her feet and shouted that she had a great marriage now, and once she took my teaching job too, I'd have nothing left. I told her cheerfully to go right ahead, bring all her books to the school, don't be late, and invite the whole village to watch. My confidence unsettled her. She'd noticed I hadn't been out collecting books at all these past few days, just teaching as usual. She couldn't understand why I wasn't worried, but she was too stubborn to back down now. After she left, I went inside for breakfast. The whole family wisely avoided mentioning Huo Shiyuan or Lin Jiaojiao. They thought I'd handled it well. After eating, I went back to the bedroom. Shiyuan followed me in. Before I could ask why, he pulled me into his arms and kissed me, hard, deep, almost desperate. My knees went weak. When he finally stopped, my lips were burning. I asked what that was about. He looked at me softly and said, "I'm just really happy." I understood. My firm rejection of Huo Shiyuan had put his heart at ease. I smiled and told him he should have more confidence in himself. Then I asked if he could help me with something. He said of course. When I arrived at school, there was already a crowd at the gate. Lin Weiwei stood behind a desk piled high with textbooks, announcing loudly that she'd borrowed 100 books and hand-copied 15, more than anyone else. She said everyone was just waiting to see how many books the teacher, who hadn't lifted a finger in 3 days, could produce. If I came up empty, the teaching position would be hers. I pushed through the crowd and walked in. Everyone's eyes lit up when they saw me, but then they noticed my hands were empty. People started tugging my sleeve, asking if I really hadn't prepared anything. Parents said their kids had brought home a few books and asked if I didn't want to teach anymore. The children begged me not to leave. Lin Weiwei stood there looking smug. She told me to just give up. The other competitors had already lost, and none of them had found more books than her.
She wanted me gone.
But the kids weren't having it. They ran over to Lin Weiwei, grabbing her legs, her waist, pushing her from behind, trying to shove her out of the schoolyard. When she raised her hand like she was about to hit them, I rushed forward and grabbed her arm. I told the children to wait nicely on the side, and they listened. Lin Weiwei was about to say something when her jaw dropped. She shoved through the crowd and looked outside. There were Shiyuan and Sanzi, each pushing a wheelbarrow loaded with more books than anyone could count. She screamed that it was impossible. I told her calmly to just admit she lost. Nobody would laugh at her for it. The villagers and children cheered. The books were in great condition, with teachers' notes written inside that would actually help the students learn. I smiled. The magic pot had copied the books along with their original condition, and since the originals were well-kept teaching copies, everything looked perfect. Someone teased Shiyuan, saying his wife was really something. Others turned to Lin Weiwei and asked if she had anything left to say. She snapped back, demanding to know if the books were real and where they came from. I told her the police could worry about that, not her. Then I asked whether she'd donate her books to the school or carry them back home. She tried to push past Shiyuan to inspect the books, but he blocked her. Sanzi shoved her aside and told her not to touch anything. Then Lin Weiwei played her nastiest card. She turned to the crowd and asked if they knew how much books cost. She said if there were 1,000 books at 1 yuan each, that was 1,000 yuan. Could they afford that? The mood shifted instantly. Parents started worrying. Some said they couldn't spare 5 yuan per child. That was enough for 100 jean of cabbage. People began pulling their kids away. The children cried. Lin Weiwei watched the chaos with a delighted smirk. I walked to the gate and stopped everyone. I reminded them that when we started this school, I said everything would be free, tuition and books both. No one had to pay a single cent. Did they still want to take their children home? The parents couldn't believe it. Lin Weiwei completely lost it. She pointed at me and screamed that I was crazy, that I must have bought the books with my own money. Then she said she'd report me. How could someone who'd been sent down to the countryside afford this? She turned and ran toward the gate, but tripped. Before she could get up, someone pushed her down again. Then someone stepped on her back. A slap came before she could even see who did it. A villager shouted that if Lin Weiwei reported me, the books would be taken away and the children would lose their chance to learn. Others piled on, calling her a troublemaker who couldn't stand seeing someone else succeed. They held her down. Lin Weiwei screamed and tried to scare them by saying her fiancé was Huo Shiyuan. That only made things worse. The villager scoffed. A leader like Huo Shiyuan would never want someone like her. No man with any sense would marry a woman who twisted the truth like she did. That finally broke her. She scrambled to her feet, covered in dirt, pointed at the crowd and shouted, "Just you wait. I'm marrying Huo Shiyuan tomorrow." Lin Weiwei looked so sure of herself that some villagers almost believed her about marrying Huo Shiyuan. But they mostly just made fun of her, comparing her bragging to someone who claimed to earn 2 yuan a day. Then someone spotted Huo Shiyuan walking nearby. They called out to him, asked about his fiancée, asked if there'd be a wedding banquet tomorrow. Huo Shiyuan slowed down, then turned and walked the other way, without a word.
He was only 20 meters away.
He definitely heard them. He just didn't want anything to do with Lin Weiwei. The villagers clicked their tongues. Someone said to let her go. Career ruined, love life ruined. They'd jump in the river if they were her. They stepped aside and made a path for her. Lin Weiwei looked like her chest was about to explode. She headed off in the direction Huo Shiyuan had gone. Once she was gone, I stopped the parents who were leaving. I told them tuition and books were completely free, but I did want a little interest. Everyone tensed up. I smiled and said all I needed was for them to cover the books at home with newspaper or brown paper to protect them. And in the evenings, when work wasn't too tiring, to sit with their kids and read for half an hour. That was it. Everyone laughed with relief and agreed. Shiyuan and Sanzi helped hand out the books and swept the yard before heading off to work. Back in the classroom, every child had 7 books neatly stacked on their desk. It made my heart feel full. Xia Mingzhu and the Women's Federation staff were amazed. They asked how I'd managed it without spending money. I told them I knew a kind old man who worked at a printing factory. When he heard I was running a school in the village, he insisted on helping and printed copies of everything. Even the handwritten notes came out identical. They flipped through 2 books side by side and couldn't believe it. They joked that my luck was so good I should write a book about it. I held back a laugh. Thank goodness they bought my story, because I had no idea how else I'd explain the magic pot. After they left, I saw Director Lee standing outside the classroom watching me with a warm look in her eyes. I knew she didn't like crowds, so I waited until the others were gone to talk to her. I mentioned that Principal Meng had helped make this happen, and that I'd promised to treat him to a meal at the state-run restaurant. Old Chen, the gatekeeper, had also asked me to bring Director Lee along. Her face changed instantly. She told me firmly, absolutely not. She said Meng and Chen were both rotten, and together they didn't add up to one decent person. She warned me to never deal with them behind her back. I quickly agreed. She softened a bit and told me I was talented and passionate, but even the most capable people had to watch out for knives in the back. She said I should focus on the school. With the villagers supporting me, my life here would only get better. Her words were genuinely kind. I noticed she'd changed toward me. No longer cold, no longer distant. She actually cared. I smiled at her warmly, which seemed to make her uncomfortable. She poked my forehead and told me to get back to class. The rest of the day went smoothly. Every child had a textbook now, and the lessons flowed so much easier. Watching their happy faces, I felt like everything was moving in the right direction. With 15 minutes left before dismissal, I was about to lead one more reading when I heard Director Lee shouting furiously in the courtyard. The kids craned their necks to look. I told them to stay quiet and ran outside. There were Principal Meng and Old Chen on their bicycles outside the iron gate, holding 2 chickens, 2 bags of rice, 10 jean of soybean oil, and a pile of notebooks and pens. Meng said he was here to visit the school. Old Chen chimed in, asking Director Lee not to get upset. I broke into a cold sweat. These 2 had 0 tact. I hurried over, but before I could even reach the gate, Director Lee declared that they should leave immediately. She didn't care what they brought. She called them plagues who only came to insult people. She gripped the gate lock with white knuckles. There was no way she was letting them in. I sighed quietly. Whatever had happened between these 3 clearly couldn't be talked through. I looked at them and wondered, what exactly was this grudge between Director Lee and those 2? After leaving Director Lee's house, I planned to take a walk and grab some food from my space to make her a proper meal. But I'd barely taken 2 steps when I saw Principal Meng and Old Chen standing nearby with their bicycles, waiting. When they saw me, their faces lit up. Principal Meng hurried over and asked how she was doing. I told him she'd been upset enough to feel real pain, and then asked what had actually happened between them. He sighed and told me. They'd met in the army years ago and fell in love. After the war, he told his family he wanted to marry her, but they'd already arranged someone else, a girl from a proper family. He refused and ran away from home. But while he was gone, his family brought the arranged girl into the house anyway. He wondered now if someone had found a way to tell Director Lee about it. I shook my head. Director Lee was too strong and sharp to be scared off by something that simple. Meng agreed. He said if she'd been angry, she would have found him on a dark night, thrown a sack over his head, beaten him senseless, and dumped him somewhere. That was more her style. I told him I'd go home to get some food and cook for her, and while I was at it, I'd try to find out what really happened. If there was a misunderstanding, I'd try to help clear it. Even if they couldn't get back together, at least they could let go of the bitterness. Old Chen jumped in and said his boss had waited 20 years for Director Lee. If there was any chance, they should absolutely get back together. Even if they were too old for children, at least they'd have each other for company. I told them both to slow down. We hadn't even figured out what went wrong, and they were already talking about marriage and babies. The grudge was serious enough to give her chest pains today. If they pushed too hard, it could be worse tomorrow. Meng nodded quickly and agreed. He looked at me gratefully and said he could tell I genuinely cared about Director Lee. He said no matter what happened, he considered me a friend, and if I ever needed help, I should ask. My eyes lit up a little at that. Old Chen laughed and said it looked like I already had something in mind. I raised my hand and said firmly, if it turned out Meng had truly wronged Director Lee, I'd never speak another word to either of them. I walked somewhere private, took some spare ribs, fine rice, potatoes from the space, and 2 small cabbages. On my way back, Meng and Old Chen were still standing in the same spot. They asked me to let them know once she'd eaten and was feeling better. If not, they'd call a doctor. I went into Director Lee's house and put on a cheerful face. I teased her, asking if she'd been lying down like a good patient. She laughed softly and said I was treating her like a little niece. I told her my actual niece was much easier to handle. When she saw I'd brought meat, she immediately tried to stop me. She told me to take the ribs home for my in-laws. They were old and needed good food more than she did. Her concern was so genuine it touched me. I told her my mother-in-law had specifically asked me to bring this to her. I washed the ribs and started cooking. In those days, meat was a rare luxury. Most families ate potatoes in every form, sliced, shredded, sauced. Half a gene of ribs was almost unthinkable. I could tell Director Lee felt uneasy about it. She told me ribs cost 8 mao a gene even with a ration ticket. I reminded her she paid me 15 yuan a month, so I could afford 1 gene of ribs just fine. I rendered the fat from the fattier pieces into lard, added soy sauce for flavor, then water, salt, and potatoes, and let it all simmer. The smell filled the whole room. Director Lee, who hadn't had meat in ages, licked her lips without even realizing it. I sat on the edge of her Kong and put the back of my hand on her forehead to check her temperature. She stiffened at the closeness. Then she looked at my face and asked me quietly if I thought she was pretty. I studied her seriously and nodded. Strong eyebrows, big eyes. A modern woman who didn't look fragile. She seemed pleased. Then she said softly, I was thinking, I'm not ugly. If my daughter had survived, she probably would have been just like you. Lively, pretty, sweet, and full of life. When Director Lee mentioned her daughter, I froze. She smiled bitterly and confirmed, yes, the child was his. But he didn't want the baby and he didn't want her either. I started to ask if there might be a misunderstanding, but she cut me off. She said she saw it with her own eyes. There was nothing to misunderstand. She couldn't fathom how he dared show his face in front of her after what he did. Her hand went to her chest again. I told her to stop thinking about it and eat first. I served the ribs, made rice porridge, and stir-fried the little cabbages. When she saw the food, she was surprised I could cook so well. I told her I'd done all the cooking at my adoptive father's house, but since marrying into the Huo family, my in-laws had been kind, and I rarely cooked anymore. She only had 1 bowl and 1 set of utensils, so I planned to leave and let her eat in peace.
But she stopped me.
She grabbed a water ladle for herself, picked up 2 soybean stalks to use as chopsticks, and set the proper bowl in front of me. When I tried to refuse, she said it would hurt her feelings if I cooked for her and didn't eat.
So I sat down.
She smiled and said this was the first time we'd eaten alone together. I kept glancing at her during the meal, wanting to ask more but holding back. She finally put down her ladle and told me to just say it. I asked how she lost the baby. She told me that when she found out Meng had betrayed her, she left that same night, traveling all the way back to her hometown alone. In those days, travel was rough. She went hungry often, and when her period stopped coming, she didn't think anything of it. After arriving home, she fixed up her old house by herself. While climbing up and down a ladder, she fell and lost the baby. My heart ached for her. I asked again, did she really see Meng betray her with her own eyes? She waved her hand. He was in bed with another woman, she said. What more was there to question? Then she told me I was too young to hear all this and said I just needed to know he wasn't a good man. I barely ate. After cleaning up, I waited until she lay back down, then left. The moment I stepped outside, rain came crashing down without warning. Director Li's house was at least 10 minutes from ours. I'd be soaked through before I got home. While I stood there unsure what to do, Principal Meng walked up with an umbrella. Before he could speak, Director Li's furious voice came from behind me. Why are you here? I turned and saw her in thin clothes and loose shoes, holding an umbrella, standing in the rain. I ran to her and tried to guide her back inside. She demanded to know if the meat I'd cooked was from him. I shook my head firmly, of course not. She studied my face, seemed to believe me, then turned and glared at Meng. She told him never to appear in front of her again. Meng rushed forward. He said if this was about the arranged girl, he was sorry. He hadn't known his family would pull that stunt while he was trying to marry her. Rain hammered the umbrellas and splashed mud up our legs. I suggested we go inside to talk. Director Li refused. She called him a wolf and said wolves didn't get to sleep under her roof. I leaned close and whispered something in her ear. She paused, frowned, then grabbed my hand and pulled me inside. She handed me a towel, stiff and threadbare, but perfectly clean. I wiped her face first, then my own. She scolded me for running around in the rain in my condition. I asked gently, did she really want them riding home through a storm like this? She snapped that if he died, it would settle the debt for her daughter. I sat beside her on the Kong. I told her that from what I'd heard from both sides, their stories didn't match. She said he'd been tangled up with another woman, but he seemed to have no memory of it at all. Didn't she want, even a little, to find out what really happened? She went quiet. She wiped the water still dripping from my hair and said Shiyuan would be upset if he knew I'd gotten drenched over her problems.
I said.
Principal Meng would be just as upset if he knew she'd come home alone, with no family waiting for her, and lost a child on top of it all. She pressed her lips together and looked toward the window. The thunder was deafening. This storm wasn't stopping anytime soon. Finally, she said, let them in to get out of the rain. Whatever happened between her and Meng, those children having textbooks was partly thanks to him.
He deserved that much.
I exhaled with relief. I was about to go open the door when I heard a knock. Director Li muttered something sarcastic about people showing up uninvited, but I pretended not to hear and opened the door. It was Shiyuan, wearing a raincoat and holding an umbrella. His expression darkened when he saw how soaked I was. Director Li told me to let him in right away. She glanced past the door. I knew she was checking if Meng and Old Chin were still out there. Shiyuan noticed too, and casually mentioned he'd seen two people standing outside with no intention of leaving. I looked at Director Li. She didn't say anything, so I grabbed the umbrella to go get them. But Shiyuan stopped me and went himself. He came back with them quickly. Both Meng and Old Chin were drenched. I added wood to the stove to warm the room. Shiyuan pulled me aside to sit down. When Principal Meng looked around Director Li's house, his face fell. The place was run down. She'd been living like this for 20 years. The room went silent. Meng spoke first. He asked why she had left without a word all those years ago. Was there something he didn't know? Director Li turned away stubbornly. Meng knelt beside the Kong and looked up at her. She tried to pull back, but he held on. He told her to tell him the truth, and whatever she decided afterward, he'd accept. His eyes were so steady that Director Li's lip trembled. A tear slipped down her face. She kicked him hard in the shoulder. He didn't move. He just looked at her gently. She finally spoke. She said he'd chosen to marry someone else, and then he and his family humiliated her on top of it. Their child died because of his family's cruelty. She could never forgive him. When he heard the word child, his whole body went rigid. He had no idea. He reached for her hand, but she slapped it away. He asked gently if they'd had a child together. She wouldn't answer. I stood up, wanting to help, but Shiyuan quietly pulled me back down. He was right, this was their moment. The rainstorm had trapped us all together, and this was the best chance they'd ever have. Director Lee noticed me and said the only reason she was willing to speak at all was because of me, and because Meng had helped the children get their textbooks. She told him one thing. That day, his family invited her to the house, and she saw him in bed with another woman. That was why she left. Meng said that was impossible. She insisted she saw it with her own eyes. Old Chen stepped in. He remembered clearly. The master of the house had brought home a girl for an arranged meeting, but 2 days later he agreed to let Meng marry Director Lee. Old Chen was sent out to buy a wedding veil. When he came back, everything seemed normal. He remembered the exact date, June 7th, 1948, because Meng was so happy that day he bought Old Chen roasted chestnuts and counted all his savings.
Director Lee lauga bitarli.
She said the family had deliberately sent Old Chen away so Meng could be alone with the other woman. Meng went quiet. Then something clicked. He remembered his father asking him to burn incense for the ancestors that day. After leaving the shrine, he'd felt extremely drowsy and went upstairs to sleep. He woke up when Old Chen returned. He realized the incense must have been drugged. While he slept, his family put the woman in his bed, then brought Director Lee to see it. Old Chen tried to add more, that Meng had given up the chance to leave with his family and traveled north alone to find her. But Meng stopped him. He told Director Lee he was sorry, his family, and he had wronged her and the child. He didn't ask for forgiveness, only for a chance to make things right. She said no. She was tired of hating him all these years. She just wanted to never see him again. Meng stood up suddenly. He said he'd find proof. He'd track down a witness to prove he never betrayed her. Then he walked out into the storm. Old Chen ran after him. I went to the door to stop them, but Director Lee told me to let them go. I sat back down beside her. I said we should wait, let Meng find his evidence. She shook her head. After so many years, his family was impossible to reach. The truth didn't matter anymore. Half the blame for losing her daughter was his, and half was her own. I hugged her. She stiffened for a moment, then patted my back. I told her not to stay trapped in the past. Asked if we could walk toward the future together. I looked into her eyes and said softly, "I'll be right here with you." The rain eased. Shiyuan and I left Director Lee's house. It was fully dark now. Moonlight reflected off the wet paths. The road was slippery and I stumbled with every step. Shiyuan held me steady the whole way. When we reached the main village road, we spotted what looked like a person lying in the middle of the path. Nearby, a bicycle loaded with a bundle had fallen into a ditch. "I think that person is hurt," Shiyuan said. Shiyuan and I walked closer and saw the person lying on the road was a mail carrier. He must have slipped on the wet ground. There was blood on his face and he was barely conscious. Shiyuan handed me the umbrella, lifted the man onto his back without hesitation, and said we'd take him home first, then find a doctor. I agreed and quietly put the man's bicycle into my space as we passed it. When we got home, Shiyuan called for help in the yard. Sanzi and father-in-law came out and were startled to see someone on Shiyuan's back. Sanzi joked that we had a habit of picking up strays, but Shiyuan told him to cut it out and go find a doctor. Sanzi dropped the jokes immediately and ran off. I brought the bicycle out of my space and leaned it against the wall, then carried the mail carrier's 2 big bundles inside. They were full of letters. In a time when communication was so difficult, these letters had traveled a long way. If they were ruined by rain, so many people would be heartbroken. Shiyuan told me to change into dry clothes in his mother's room while he got the mail carrier out of his wet things. Mother-in-law saw me soaked and rushed to get me a towel. She asked about Director Lee. I told her she was okay physically but not in great spirits. Mother-in-law said gently not to worry. Director Lee was tough and nothing could break her. I went to the kitchen and boiled water. Everyone had been caught in the rain and needed to warm up. Sanzi came back with a village doctor. After examining the mail carrier, the doctor said it wasn't serious, just a fever. He'd set up in 4 drip, and once the fever broke, the man would be fine. He'd been traveling a long time and was exhausted, but nothing was broken. Shiyuan asked the doctor to be a witness that we'd found the man on the roadside and brought him home, in case anyone asked questions. The doctor agreed. He said good deeds shouldn't be punished. The doctor taught Shiyuan how to remove the 4 needle, then left because of the rain. The mail carrier was delirious with fever, mumbling things we couldn't understand. Shiyuan suggested I sleep in his mother's room tonight, so he could watch over the man. I hesitated. I needed to enter my space every night, and that would be hard to explain if I was sharing a room with mother-in-law. Shiyuan caught on right away and said he'd move the man to Sanzi's room after the 4 was done. I was relieved he understood so quickly. While waiting for the drip to finish, we opened the mail bags. Many letters near the top were wet, some with names already smeared and unreadable. We quickly laid them all out, dry ones stacked neatly to one side, wet ones spread flat on the warm Kong to dry by the fire. Sanzi squinted at one envelope and laughed. This person's name is funny. Ho Niao? Monkey bird. Father-in-law suddenly stood up. He grabbed the letter from Sanzi's hands and hurried to the other room without a word. The 3 of us stared at each other, confused. Shiyuan went to check on him, but found the door locked from inside. He knocked and called out. No answer. But through the door, he could hear quiet sobbing. His father, the strongest man he knew, was crying. Shiyuan knocked again, growing anxious. I pulled him back gently and called through the door, telling our parents we'd be up late and to call us if they needed anything. Then I brought Shiyuan back to our room. Give him some time, I said. He tried to smile but couldn't hide his worry. His father had never broken down like this before. Sanzi said if it were something truly bad, his uncle would have told us. We should just wait. Shiyuan sat on the edge of the Kong, turning that name over in his mind. Ho Niao, Honak, a migratory bird. A bird that longs for home. He stood up again, ready to go back, but then mother-in-law came in. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying too. She said there was a stranger in the house tonight, so father-in-law wanted us to handle things first. They'd talk to us about it when the time was right. I asked if they were okay. She smiled softly, patted my shoulder, and said not to worry. Then she went back to bed. I told Shiyuan I thought whatever was in that letter was actually good news. Sanzi was confused. Why would good news make someone cry? Shiyuan didn't answer. He was deep in thought. After the 4 finished, Sanzi carried the mail carrier to his room. I gathered the dried letters and put them away. We lay down on the Kong. Shiyuan took my hand and squeezed it tight. I held his arm and looked at him. Weiwei, he said, his voice rough. I sat up and held his hand. Who do you think that letter is connected to? My older brother. I nodded. I'd been thinking the same thing. If that letter really was from Shiyuan's older brother, then father-in-law's reaction meant he might know something about where his eldest son had gone. Shiyuan said quietly that of the 3 siblings, his older brother was the most exceptional. He refused to believe someone like that would just die silently without a trace. I told him to wait and slipped into my space. The little TV was thrilled to see me. It greeted me in a thick northeastern accent it had apparently picked up to fit in. It told me the system showed I was in the Northeast and that in 3 years, food shortages would ease up. I cut it off. I didn't need to know the future right now. I had something else I needed help with. I asked if it could check whether a certain person was still alive in the future. It refused immediately. Looking into life and death was forbidden for any system. The punishment could mean being erased entirely. That was too dangerous. This space was everything our family depended on. I couldn't risk losing it. I pulled out the supporting character handbook and searched for Shiyuan's older brother's name, even tried the name Ho Niao. Nothing. He wasn't mentioned anywhere in the book. There was no way to know if he was alive or dead from this. As I set the book down, frustrated, it flipped open on its own to a page that caught my eye. Under Lin Jiao's husband column, the name written was Su Wangkai.
Not Huo Shiyuan. Who was Su Wangkai?
Wasn't she supposed to marry Huo Shiyuan? I couldn't figure it out. The little TV reminded me to do my lottery before it shut down. I hurried and drew my prize, a dream card. I stared at it, remembering what the last one had shown me, and felt my face grow warm. Where would this one take me? I glanced at the crops before leaving. The watermelon seeds I'd planted yesterday had only just started to flower. The growing cycle was longer than potatoes, so I'd have to check again in the morning. Back in bed, Shiyuan could tell something was on my mind, but didn't push. He knew me. If it were good news, I'd share it on my own. We held hands and fell asleep carrying our separate worries. In the middle of the night, I was pulled into a dream. I saw a young woman in a white dress, beautiful like a lotus flower, crying her heart out. A group of men in military uniforms stood before her like a wall. They told her they were sorry. They hadn't found Huo Shiyuan's body. The landslide had been catastrophic. His remains were likely buried. She shook her head, tears streaming. She said he couldn't be dead. She refused to believe it until she saw him with her own eyes. She begged them not to curse her husband. The scene shifted. Mother-in-law carried a baby toward a room. It was spotless, but empty. All signs of life were gone. She panicked and ran home, nearly falling. She bumped into a young Shiyuan, still a teenager, but already so steady. He caught her and asked what happened. She said through tears that his sister-in-law had disappeared. Father-in-law rushed in, heard the news, and ran back out. Then the dream followed the white hem of the woman's dress to the ocean. She watched the churning waves and slowly walked in. I screamed inside the dream, trying to stop her, but no sound came out. I could only watch as the water rose to her chin. A wave crashed over her, and she vanished. I was sobbing, choking, screaming no, and then everything spun wildly. Suddenly, I heard fluent English. The white dress became a black and white checkered skirt. The woman was walking down a busy street filled with honking cars. Relief flooded through me. I laughed and cried at the same time. She was alive. She had survived. The pain in my chest slowly faded. I could hear Shiyuan's worried voice calling my name. I felt exhausted, like I'd been drifting through ocean currents, trying to find my way home. My strength was gone. The air felt thin. Everything went hazy. Shiyuan was sweating with worry. He'd picked me up and was about to carry me to a doctor when I finally broke through and opened my eyes. The moment I saw his face, I threw my arms around his neck. Tears soaked his shoulder. He exhaled and stroked my hair, whispering that it was okay, asking if I'd had a nightmare. I cried, then laughed, then cried again. He looked confused but held me tight and said, "I'm here." I pulled back, looked him in the eyes, and said, "Shiyuan, your sister-in-law is still alive." He went still. "Weiwei, do you know something?" I told Shiyuan that my space had shown me something. I'd seen what his sister-in-law's life looked like now. His eyes lit up and he asked what I saw and whether his brother was there too. I opened my mouth to answer but stopped. In the excitement of waking up, I'd only felt the thrill of knowing she was alive. But now, thinking about where she actually was, I realized I couldn't say it carelessly. Shiyuan noticed my hesitation and asked carefully if it was dangerous. I shook my head. He relaxed a little and said as long as she was alive, there was always a chance to meet again. That wasn't the worst outcome. I whispered that I thought his sister-in-law might be abroad.
His face changed.
He'd imagined 1,000 possibilities, but never this one. With the current political climate and our family already sent down to the countryside, he understood immediately why I'd been afraid to say it. If anyone else found out, our whole family could be destroyed. He held my hand and told me not to worry, he'd handle it. He tucked me back into bed and waited until I fell asleep. But he couldn't sleep at all. In the morning, he wanted to talk to his parents, but remembered the mail carrier was still in the house. He went to Sanzi's room first. The young man was awake and looking much better. He thanked Shiyuan over and over. We all had breakfast together. I dried and organized all his letters, and when the mail carrier saw them preserved so carefully, his face filled with emotion. He said those letters had traveled from all over the country and been through so much to reach him. He told us his name was Huo Shiyuan and said if we ever needed anything, he'd help without question. He was a warm, easygoing person. He said he envied how lively our family meals were. His own father was strict about silence at the table. We all laughed, though only we knew the mood that morning was heavier than usual. Everyone was carrying something unspoken. After breakfast, Mu Qingyan left. Sanzi volunteered to walk him out, knowing the rest of us needed to talk privately. I helped mother-in-law clear the dishes. When I came back, father-in-law said he had something to tell us. Shiyuan and I sat up straight. We knew this was going to be big. Shiyuan asked about the letter. Father-in-law confirmed it. The letter was from his older brother. Shiyuan shot to his feet, his face full of shock and joy. He asked what it said. But then he noticed mother-in-law wiping away tears, and our hearts sank. Father-in-law handed over the letter. Shiyuan and I read it together. It was short. His wife was pregnant and had been safely sent back to the country. He himself could not return yet. He hoped that one day he'd see his parents and brothers again. Shiyuan was stunned. He asked if father-in-law had known all along where his brother and sister-in-law had gone. Father-in-law stood, walked over, and put his hand on Shiyuan's shoulder. He said the men of the Huo family had never backed down from something important, and his sister-in-law was just as brave. Shiyuan asked how many people knew about the mission. Father-in-law said within the organization, he was the only one. The top leadership also knew. Shiyuan's expression grew serious. He asked the real question, if the higher-ups already knew the truth about his brother and sister-in-law and about mother-in-law's background. Why had we still been sent to the countryside? Father-in-law looked pleased that his son had thought it through. He explained, his brother and sister-in-law's mission was top secret. If their people could go abroad, the other side could send people in too. With 2 family members missing and mother-in-law's sensitive background, staying in the capital would only invite suspicion. Leaving was the safest option. He said his brother had written before, saying the Northeast was a good place. He hoped his younger brother could build something here. If his mission succeeded, we'd all return home together with honor. And if it failed, well, then there'd be no secret left to protect anyway. Shiyuan said firmly, we will go home together with Big Brother. All of us. Father-in-law nodded. Then he looked at me with apology in his eyes. He said the orders had come suddenly. If there'd been more time, he never would have let Shiyuan disrupt my life. Before I could even respond, Shiyuan pulled me behind him. The thought of his life without me in it scared him now. Father-in-law laughed. He said he and mother-in-law had really done something, raised 2 sons who were both hopelessly devoted to their wives. Shiyuan's ears turned red from his father's teasing. He could be bold with me all day long, but in front of his parents he still got shy. He mumbled that we should get going to work. As we left, I couldn't resist poking at him. I sighed dramatically and said it was funny how someone had once wanted to divorce me. Before I could finish, he pulled me into his arms and said, with a completely straight face, that whoever that idiot was, he'd go beat him up. What kind of fool would let go of a wife like me? I held in my laugh. He told me he'd never let go of my hand. I turned the conversation to practical things. I said once we got through winter, we'd have better seeds for planting. With good crops, we'd have more than enough food after paying the grain tax. His brother was right. The Northeast was full of possibility. In this era, with rich black soil and quality seeds, life could be good. He kissed me and walked me to school. The village felt unusually busy. Parents stopped me along the way to ask for time off for their children. The autumn soybean harvest had started, and every pair of hands was needed, even small ones, to pick up dropped beans. I understood. Things were different here than in the city. At school, only the toddlers had shown up. Everyone 7 and older was out in the fields. Xia Mingzhu said she'd watch the little ones, so I rolled up my sleeves and headed to the fields myself. She looked at my soft, pale hands and told me not to bother. She was right. The fields were endless. Villagers moved down rows with sickles, cutting 800-meter furrows like it was nothing. I couldn't even finish 100 meters. The soybean stalks were tough and prickly. Everyone else sliced through them in one clean stroke while I hacked away uselessly. But the more I fell behind, the more stubborn I got. I kept going all morning and eventually found the right technique. I was still slower than everyone else, but I was improving. At noon, I went back to eat with the children. As I headed out for the afternoon, I saw a wedding procession on the road. I wasn't going to stop and watch, but then Lin Weiwei called out to me. He looked me up and down with contempt and said I'd done well for myself, landing a decent job so quickly. I looked him over too. The former rich family's young master was now wearing patched pants and torn shoes. His once plump face had gone slack. I smiled. That smile made him furious. He told me Lin Jiaojiao had married into the Su family and they were wealthy, 30 or 40 chickens, 2 pigs. Very impressive by village standards. I asked if the great Lin family heir had really been reduced to being jealous of pig farmers. He raised a fist but spotted Shiyuan coming down the road and bolted. Shiyuan asked what was going on. I told him Lin Jiaojiao was apparently getting married, but not to Huo Shiyuan. That was surprising. Shiyuan had been at the cadre school and hadn't seen Huo Shiyuan or heard any wedding news about him. I shrugged and said it didn't matter who she married. Shiyuan said he'd come because he heard I'd been working in the fields. He took my hand and saw 2 shiny blisters on my palm. His expression darkened. I tried to brush it off, but he insisted on taking me home to bandage them. He said our family only needed one person who knew farm work. My job was to learn how to boss him around. I couldn't argue with him. As we walked home, we saw a crowd of people jumping into the small river upstream from our fish pond. Someone on the bank was yelling that the new bride had jumped in. Lin Jiaojiao had jumped into the river? I stopped walking. Shiyuan didn't push me to move. We watched as people pulled her out and carried her toward the clinic. The groom's mother, still wearing her wedding corsage, was furious, yelling that if the girl didn't want to marry, she shouldn't have agreed, and that the Su family's luck was cursed for taking her in. Some villagers told her to stop. The woman might be dead for all they knew. Then Lin Jiaojiao coughed up water, grabbed the people carrying her, and screamed that she didn't want to marry Su Wangkai. She said the Lin family had drugged her and forced the wedding. She said she was already with Comrade Zhou from the cadre school and couldn't betray him. Everyone froze. Some people held back the groom's mother. Others ran to find the village chief. Others went to notify the Women's Federation. In this era, arranged marriages were illegal. If the Su and Lin families had really forced this, they could end up in prison. Someone in the crowd said they should notify Comrade Zhou at the cadre school. If he and Lin Jiaojiao were truly in love, it wasn't right that another family had carried off his bride. The groom's mother spat on the ground. She said Huo Shiyuan didn't want Lin Jiaojiao at all. He was glad to see her married off, so she'd stop bothering him. Lin Jiaojiao fired back, calling the woman's son stupid, asking why she'd want to marry him just to produce stupid grandchildren. The old woman went wild and tried to attack her, but the villagers held her back. Lin Jiaojiao saw her chance. If her life was going to be ruined, she'd make sure nobody came out clean. She collapsed on the ground and wailed that her parents had taken the Su family's bride price, spent it all in a day, and then drugged her and forced her into the marriage because they couldn't pay it back. She said Huo Shiyuan had even given her parents 300 yuan to return to the Su family so she could be free, but they kept it. The villagers were outraged. The groom's mother screamed that it was all lies. She'd paid 300 yuan in bride price, and the Lin parents spent every cent. She said her family wouldn't have wanted this troublesome girl at all, if not for the debt. Then she said something about Lin Jiaojiao claiming another man as her fiancé when she was already in the Su family's door, calling her impure. Lin Jiaojiao wasn't afraid. The more the old woman talked, the more information came out, and the worse it looked for everyone, the Lin parents, the Su family, and Huo Shiyuan. That was exactly what she wanted. The village chief and police arrived. The chief said Lin Jiaojiao was from the neighboring village, not his jurisdiction, and left it to the police. The officers recognized Lin Jiaojiao. She was the same woman they'd seen with Huo Shiyuan before, arm in arm, looking every bit like a couple. Lin Jiaojiao crawled over to them, crying about being drugged and forced to marry a man she didn't love. The police believed her. They said they'd investigate and wouldn't let bad people get away with anything. They took Lin Jiaojiao and the groom's mother away. The village chief followed. The whole procession marched right past our house. As Lin Jiaojiao walked by, she opened her mouth to say something to me, but Shiyuan pulled me inside and shut the door. We didn't discuss her at all. It wasn't our business. Whether she married a fool or married Huo Shiyuan, it had nothing to do with us. Shiyuan sat me on the Kong and opened the medicine box. He lifted my hand and heated a sewing needle over the oil lamp to pop my blisters. But right before he did it, he stopped and said something completely out of nowhere. If I'd been more careful, I wouldn't have gotten you pregnant. You're so afraid of pain. How are you going to handle giving birth? I actually started thinking about it seriously. I'd never had a baby in my past life either. Ow. While I was distracted, he'd already popped the first blister. I yanked my hand back. That question had been a trick to divert my attention. My face went red with frustration. I told him to at least give me a moment to prepare. He laughed and said preparing meant several minutes of dread, while not preparing meant just 1 second of pain. Then he blew gently on my palm and asked if it felt better. I nodded grudgingly. He asked if I'd thought about whether the baby was a boy or a girl. But now I was wise to his game. I kept my eyes fixed on the needle in his hand instead of thinking about his question. He laughed, set the needle aside, and asked again. There, nothing to be scared of now. So, boy or girl, either is fine. OW. Huo Shiyuan, that sneaky man, had hidden a second needle. Both blisters were popped now, and they really stung. He cleaned them, applied medicine, and bandaged my hands. He told me not to go back to the fields. I said I had to. If I quit after one morning, people would talk. He said he'd come with me since Huo Shiyuan probably wouldn't be assigning any tasks that afternoon. He kissed me, and we headed out. The fields were even busier than the morning. Shiyuan wouldn't let me go deep into the rows, so I sat at the edge. The village chief showed up with more people, cadre school workers, even elderly folks who usually stayed home. He said temperatures would drop soon, and everyone needed to rush the harvest. I looked up at the warm September sun and thought he was exaggerating. But this was the northeast. The chief noticed me sitting there. He asked if I was the girl the Qian family in Darong village had found, their long-lost daughter. I said yes. He told me Director Li valued me, which made me one of their village's people. He said something about how the Qian family hadn't found me yet, and that I'd need to make my own decisions. Then he praised how I'd handled the school situation and said he trusted Director Li's judgment. I wondered what the Qian family could want. I didn't have to wait long. That evening, when Shiyuan and I got home, my second brother Qian Tailin and his wife Meng Siyu were standing at our gate holding gifts. They'd completely changed their attitude from last time. The sister-in-law called me little sister sweetly and said she'd come to apologize. She tried handing me the gifts. Neither Shiyuan nor I took them. She turned to Shiyuan and mentioned she was pregnant and the bags were heavy, hoping he'd accept. He said coolly that since she was in a delicate condition, her husband should carry them. He said we didn't accept gifts we hadn't earned. I noticed 2 of the 3 items were the same ones we'd brought to the Qian house last time. They were regifting my own presents back to me. Shiyuan caught it too. I told them directly to say what they really came for. The gifts were mine to begin with, so they should take them home. My brother scratched his head, embarrassed. His wife brushed it off with a smile and called it a family visit and apology. I told her plainly, I wasn't born yesterday. We weren't close enough for casual visits. If they had real business, say it. If not, go home. Shiyuan and I turned to walk inside. Behind us, the sister-in-law hissed at my brother, calling me a difficult, poor relative who wouldn't give them face. She didn't realize I could hear every word. I turned back and said calmly that being poor wasn't the problem. Having a poisonous tongue and a dark heart was what made people unwelcome. They'd never treated me kindly growing up, so I saw no reason to indulge them now. The sister-in-law exploded. She screamed at my brother, saying his own sister wouldn't give him an ounce of respect, and if she were him, she'd rather die. My brother's face was bright red. He stepped forward to talk to me, but his wife yanked him back. She glared at me and asked if I'd only listen if our parents came begging. I told her that based on how they'd started with flattery and quickly turned nasty, this was clearly a difficult favor that only I could handle. If that was the case, no amount of visitors would change my answer. I told them not to drag the elderly parents out here for nothing. She sneered and said I was clearly more Lin than Qian, always keeping my distance from the family. I smiled and looked her up and down. Funny, I don't remember you being surnamed Qian either. My brother clenched his fists and told me not to disrespect his wife. I could see he was an honest man who genuinely cared about her, but he wasn't very sharp. I needed to make things clear. Brother, your wife is yours to take care of. Don't push that responsibility onto other people. After all, she only shares your bed, not mine. My brother was stunned by what I'd said. His wife laughed mockingly and told him to look at how little respect his own family gave him. His older brother and sister-in-law were no good. Their parents played favorites, and even the long-lost sister they were so happy to find looked down on him. His face went from angry to pitiful. He walked toward me and begged. He said his wife had been a city girl before being sent to the countryside. Marrying him, a simple rural man, was already a sacrifice. Now there might be a chance for her to return to the city, and only I could help make it happen. Asked if he'd go with her. He looked at his wife hopefully. She turned her head and said nothing. He was clearly hurt, but he kept pleading on her behalf anyway. It made me angry to watch. We'd only met twice, so there was barely any bond between us, but seeing him so spineless still frustrated me. I told them I couldn't help and turned to go inside. Then my brother dropped to his knees. He said their village chief had promised that if the Qian family could convince me to move the school from Shangrong village to Darong village, his wife would be recommended when the policy came for educated youth to return to the cities. I frowned. I hadn't expected the favor to be this. I asked why anyone would want to move the school. It belonged to the Women's Federation, which served all 3 villages. Why move it to just one? My brother didn't know. It was just what the village chief told them. His wife added there'd be benefits for our parents too, but when I asked what exactly, she couldn't come up with anything. I told my brother plainly. Did he realize that whichever village I chose, I'd make enemies of the other? He knew, but his wife's benefit outweighed my safety in his mind. I told him that since they'd never looked out for me, I couldn't be expected to look out for them. I walked inside without looking back. He tried to follow, but Shiyuan lifted him to his feet and wouldn't let him kneel again. Shiyuan told him directly, coming to our door to pressure me for his wife's sake was grounds for a beating. He asked how long we'd lived in this village and whether a single member of the Qian family had ever visited me. Relatives who only showed up when they needed something. Even if I was kind-hearted enough to accept them, he as my husband would not. Sanzi came out too, cracking his knuckles and said I didn't need their family. I already had parents, siblings, and people who cared. He told them to leave or deal with him. My brother looked to his wife. She grabbed her things, snorted, and walked off. He chased after her. Inside, mother-in-law was comforting me. She and father-in-law had heard everything, but felt it wasn't their place to interfere with my birth family's matters. I smiled and told them not to worry. I wasn't going to waste energy on people who couldn't think straight. After mother-in-law left, Shiyuan sat beside me and studied my face. I pushed him playfully and asked why he was staring. He said forget the Qian family for now. The real question was why Darong Village's chief wanted to move the school in the first place. Nobody had cared when I started it, so why fight over it now? I told him it didn't matter what they were scheming. If they thought they could use me as a pawn, they were mistaken. I smacked his leg and told him to get up. We needed to cook dinner. Whatever came, we'd deal with it. He laughed and said with that attitude, I'd succeed at anything. I accepted the compliment. We'd barely stepped into the kitchen when someone called from the gate, asking if this was Teacher Lin's house. Mother-in-law came out and told us to go handle it while she cooked. Outside stood a middle-aged man in blue work clothes holding a live chicken. He smiled and introduced himself as Village Chief Liu from Xiarong Village, the 3rd village. Shiyuan and I exchanged a look. He greeted the man politely but stayed planted at the gate, making no move to invite him in. The chief was experienced enough to read the room. He said he had important business to discuss with us and asked if he could come inside. Shiyuan was polite, but didn't take the bait. Chief Liu could tell we already knew why he was there. He dropped the pretense, held up the chicken, and said plainly that he had a favor to ask, something only we could do. He explained that the village chiefs had gone to the county office, and the county leaders were impressed by the school. They asked which village it belonged to, and suddenly all 3 villages wanted to claim it. Chief Lu said his village, Xiarong, had an empty compound perfect for a school. If we moved there, they'd also give us a big house to live in. I understood immediately. The school had caught the attention of higher-ups, and now every village wanted it on their turf for the prestige. I smiled and told him the school belonged to the Women's Federation, which served all 3 villages equally. The Federation had supported me from the start. Moving the school just because there were benefits now would be ungrateful. I couldn't agree. He pushed harder, asking me to at least visit the space he'd prepared. I politely declined again. His tone shifted. He started laying out the smart choice, saying we were outsiders in Shangrong village with no deep connections, and that his village would treat us and our family well if we cooperated. I pretended not to notice the veiled pressure and said I'd keep teaching all the children well regardless of which village they came from. His face darkened. He looked at our house and made a pointed comment. The homes assigned to people who'd been sent down weren't usually this nice. He implied we'd received special treatment and hinted that's why we wouldn't move. Shiyuan stepped in and suggested he bring Chief Lu over so we could all talk openly. Chief Lu turned cold. He warned us that of the 3 village chiefs, only Lu was the quiet type who wouldn't defend us if someone threw accusations our way. He said if we tied ourselves to Lu, we'd be on our own when trouble came. I told him calmly that anyone planning to throw dirt at us should think twice. That pushed him over the edge. He started threatening to report us to the county, saying we couldn't explain where our house and belongings came from. Before he could finish, the front door swung open behind me. Father-in-law strode out, his expression hard. He said he normally let me handle family decisions and didn't interfere, but he couldn't sit by and watch a grown man bully and threaten younger people. He told Chief Lu to go ahead and report us to the county if he wanted, but warned him to be careful he didn't trip over his own feet in the process. Chief Lu sputtered, calling us blind to the situation and saying we were refusing a toast only to drink a penalty. Father-in-law shot back that our family had walked through battlefields. I hadn't started the school for personal gain. These village chiefs hadn't lifted a finger to help when the school was being built, and now they wanted to use it for their own glory. We hadn't spoken up until now, not because we were weak, but because we had more dignity than they did. Chief Lu couldn't form a response. He left with a "you'll see." Shiyuan and I stared at father-in-law in surprise. He'd always been the quiet, dignified type. This was unexpected. He cleared his throat, slightly self-conscious, and asked if we knew who the county leader was that Chief Lu kept threatening to report us to. We shook our heads. He said, when I was still a squad leader, that man was a soldier under my command, so our being sent to this particular place was never random at all.